Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Smith Tools and Purchase, Level Playing Poem, Vitali Z, Colton James, BG, Survive the Spin, Effie Patriot, Thomas van der Zander, Chris Wouters, Sea Level Cultist, Mitch Kennedy, Rod, The Names Burley, Jason Hornsby, JMails24, Unimento, Iron26, Endless, Retro Bill, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Hairy Blade, Mobile Mac 777, Rob W, Del West Watson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Texas Mike, Chow Young Cat, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. And with that, I'm going to hand across to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show. Hey, Neil.
Did you hear any QE show yesterday?
I dipped in and out at various different points, but I wasn't there the whole time. Why? Was there anything interesting going on?
Refraction.
What do you mean, refraction?
That's all everybody's talking about. But what was interesting to me was it was on Earth Awakenings, you know, the Misfit Toy Land of Misfit Toys, and Danny Faulkner was on. And boy, was he speaking a lot. And I was thinking about it. He sat in how long? And we couldn't squeeze 10 words out of him. So they pick and choose where they want to go. And there's low-hanging fruit there, and he goes there and talks about his observations, and they all love him.
What you're saying is, when Danny Faulkner goes to what you're calling the Land of Misfit Toys, he seems very relaxed. The words flow freely. Whereas when he came here, we have 30 to 50 seconds in between responses and questions as he takes his sweet ass time to think about what he's going to say in response. Yeah, the stakes are a lot higher here, aren't they, Neil?
Yeah, he can't get away with none of the stuff he got away with there. So
no, sorry, you're wrong, Neil. It's just because we've got a mute button here.
That's right.
It's not like we recorded all 50 seconds of the dead air after he was asked a question and failed to respond for a significant period of time. No, he was given all the time he ever needed, and he took every last second of it, didn't he? But that's not what we have accused of us. We have accused of us being muters. That is to say, we'll shut people down, right? When they get annihilated and start rumpusing the crap out of the conclusion that comes after they get annihilated. They'll want to chant through it. And when I close the line down so I can make my conclusion after my victory, they'll call foul. But when it's in the middle of a discussion that hasn't been concluded yet, obviously, if it takes someone like Danny 60 seconds to gather his thoughts in response, then he'll get his 60 seconds, won't he? And he did.
Yeah, you could use that, and you've actually shut me down for him to speak.
Yeah, I told you off, right? If he's going to take 60 seconds to gather his thoughts and come up with a reply, then let him have every 60 seconds of it. No problem. No interruptions, no diverging from the point that he's got put to him. Same in response. If it takes whoever he's talking to a couple of seconds to gather their thoughts, so be it. I mean, that's how it is. But here, when that's the case, right, he took all the time he needed to gather his thoughts and offer his responses. Yeah? Well, that's because here, where's he going to end up? Well, he knows where he's going to end up. Eventually, he's going to end up talking about how he measures Earth flat. And he wants to avoid that at all costs. And that takes quite a lot of mental processing, doesn't it? Yeah? You got to work at that. And work at it he did, cognitively speaking. You could almost hear the cogs turning in his head. I like it. I like how the stakes are a lot higher here than they are everywhere else. And while the stakes are high to our opponents, I'm sitting here as relaxed as I've ever been. Feet up, couldn't care less anymore. Literally, the stakes couldn't be lower for me as you come in telling me about your gyros that drift. Oh my God. The stakes get higher for them and lower for us. Like, our indifference level is increasing by the day.
Yeah,
For
the
them.
amount of times that he used the word angle for his little star observation, I just can't get past it. I heard sea level. I'm like, did you just say sea level? I mean,
Yeah,
once you see it, it's hard not to. So I really can't pay attention to any of the other nonsense that he's talking about because you just used the flat earth.
exactly. That's the problem. That's why it takes such careful thought and consideration to deal with us. While we can just waffle on quite happily on a live show without any edits needing to be made. If I could say it, I'll edit that out later. You know what I'm getting at? We're not stressed about how I phrase something. Yeah? Now, we might pull each other up during a live show when someone uses a heliocentric vernacular. But who cares? It's inconsequential to us and our arguments. Or it was before we realised there wasn't an argument at all. No, it's completely inconsequential. I'll use whatever bleeding verbiage I like, thank you very much, while you sit and ponder how you're going to phrase the answer to avoid the awful truth of using a flat earth measurement. Yeah, you can ponder that all day long. I don't have to ponder that. I'm not worried about using sea level, or surface level, or flight level, or altitude. All of these things that are only conforming to a flat earth measurement in every single respect. I can use them. But you, your baller, is going to be terrified of accidentally using one of those words and getting welcomed to a flat earth by me. That's the reality of it, isn't it, Neil? Or worse, no offence to you, Neil, welcomed by you. Because you represent the common man, Neil. Yeah? You, at the moment, are like a godsend. Do you know why?
Yeah, because I'm a common man and I get the basic knowledge that we put out.
Yeah. When you say things like, I can't see past them using sea level anymore, those words have more potency than you ever could imagine. You're more representative of those Nielsen rating boxes where one box is representative of about 15,000 people for every click that you make and stay watching a channel for more than 8 minutes. You're like, that represents 30,000 people watching that show for 15 minutes because you've watched it and your Nielsen box registered it. Well, what's that telling you? Statistically, you can be representative in terms of how you behave towards stuff of a lot of other people in terms of, yeah, you just represent your average Joe, and your average Joe, if they come across this information currently, just understands at a very simple level that it's level.
Correct.
Yeah. The common
It
man's going to
actually
lose interest.
frustrates me how other people ain't getting it.
Common man's going to lose interest in the complex arguments that you're told with an air of disdain, I might add, that you're stupid for not understanding when you've got the basics down and you don't really need to go past them. Up until now, it's relied on, if we can whistle past the flat earth measurements, we can engage common man in complex equations, like on screen now, right? Look at this on screen. For you, this isn't intimidating anymore, is it? Because what do your eyes get drawn to? Surface level, eye level, them being parallel, them being necessitated by the mathematics itself. Now, the fact that it's an orthographic view that represents a below surface level differential mathematics that utilises surface level and eye level when measuring the altitude off surface level isn't necessarily for the common man to understand. Now, I'm not trying to elevate myself above the common man either. I am that common man. I've just had 10 years to learn this shit. But now, after 10 years of learning this shit, I realise how inconsequential it all is, that we start with a surface level measurement. Who bloody cares? We're all measuring Earth flat in every single instance. So do I care about well, after we measure Earth flat at surface level, there is this complicated argument about how we can see below the surface level at a point of tangency we call Earth curve that only exists in these maths. Do I care anymore after 10 years? No. And do you care anymore, Neil?
No, all I see is a triangle there.
distorted triangle that's alleged to be functioning with the A to S point that in reality doesn't exist, what actually
Yep.
mathematise or is mathematisable is the surface level and eye level, the dip angle measurement that is alleged to take place. But you need a surface level to have a difference. And the surface level difference is measured with the eye level. And it's parallel. So you can't bend it. Obviously you can't bend it. It's axiomatically, mathematically described as being level. But in terms of their response, oh, well, the surface level's bending. Now then, or your maths fails. Hey, Jado.
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah,
chat
all
to
that
Neil when I
other
get a
stuff
cup of
was
coffee going?
garbage. All I saw was a triangle of where the Earth is surface level supposed to be.
Yeah. And they're measuring that all day long, aren't they, Neil? Anyway, I'm going to see if I can get a coffee, if I can get Jado involved in a conversation with you. And Peaceful Warrior, for that matter. Hello, both of you.
Hello. Good
Hello.
afternoon. Good morning, wherever you are.
Good evening to you. How's it going?
Though, did you hear any of QE's live yesterday?
I listened to it on the way to work, about an hour and 15 minutes of it. I'm still got to listen to the rest. Did I miss anything good?
Well, the main thing you missed was how much time Danny Faulkner used his mic and spoke. We can't squeeze 3 words out of the guy. It's kind of like he's picking and choosing where he wants to spew his rhetoric. Can't get away with that here.
Yeah, but when certain groups nest him, like he's obviously going to sit there and participate, isn't he?
Yeah, but half the stuff he was talking about there, not one person drew him to measurements. Not one. Okay? And that's the problem. They chose to speak about refraction.
I did hear a whole new library of different kinds of refraction. That's what I did hear.
Yeah, right? The first refraction and the second refraction. How many refractions we got here?
I think he sounded even surprised that no one pulled him up on it every time he mentioned a different kind of refraction.
No, he was it was like he was their teacher and they seemed to allow it. They welcomed it, him being a teacher. See, I can't see past a man who reads the Bible and then changes it and tells you this is what God actually did. He stopped the earth from rotating instead of being honest. What the scripture says that Joshua bid the sun to stay still in the sky so Israel could gain a victory. Now, that's in black and white. Does not say anything about God stopping the earth. But to make it fit his religion, he'll change what God said and be okay with it. So you think I'm going to listen to anything this man has to say?
Well, I did ask him once in a message that, God created the light and the dark. And on the fourth day, he created the luminaries, such as the sun. So I asked him, was the earth spinning or not spinning up until the fourth day, or did it start spinning at the fourth day?
Yeah,
Where's it say it's spinning?
what they'll say to that is, well, that was in the beginning of creation, and once everything was all set in place, then God set all the movement.
Where's
I've
it say
had
that?
that thrown back at me.
Where's it say that?
It doesn't say that. That's what I'm saying. That's what they'll tell you.
Yeah, but that's them imposing their current religion onto their Bible, isn't it? I mean, who
Yeah.
cares? I mean, you can call him a heathen, but, let he who's without sin and he cast the first stone and all that. Pull the log out of your own eye. All those
Hold
sort
on.
of things apply when you're like, okay, so these guys want to put their own interpretation on words that don't exist. because they need the earth to move based on what the church, not the Bible, the church said several hundred years ago and passed down to the common man. The common man being the guy arguing against the Bible in this instance and telling you that the Bible is wrong. It doesn't explicitly state what he's claiming, and he's imposing those feelings and thoughts based on his current religion onto the Bible. It's not your problem, Neil. It's not your fault.
Yeah, and he does it liberally. Like, geez, come on. Have you no fear of God? Sin is one thing. We all sin. But to outright read something and then put your spin on it because you got to get it to fit into your religion. Take a look at what happens to people who do that, who change the word of God. Not
Sure.
pretty.
I mean, sure, but in the case of someone like Danny Faulkner, you've just got to point out that Earth's measured flat, and that he should stop imposing his religion of a sphere onto the ball, and then move on. Like, keep it short. Don't waste too much of your time that's very precious on their heathenism. Is that right? Heathen? Is that the correct word?
The heathenistic ways. No, I agree with you. I'd take him right to earth measured flat. I'm just saying, why would I even listen to a guy who could just take God's word and do whatever he wants with it?
Because
I'm
you
gonna
might
listen to
recognise
you.
that he's probably quite a good man deep down. Do you think Danny's evil? I don't.
No,
Right.
but the way he presents the word of God, he's got to know what he's doing, especially now.
Nobody thinks they're the bad guy, Neil. Yeah, everybody thinks they're on the side of good. Always. I mean, there's
Yeah,
marks that don't care, but
Nathan,
generally.
Nathan, not with the information we have now. You can't get around it. He is not a dummy. He's actually an educated man, right? And that's what's getting in his way. Pride.
Right, so maybe compassion. Right, that's what I'm trying to offer in that regard, right? If you come to a conclusion that somebody's not fundamentally evil, not fundamentally just there to share their pain, when's he done that? When's he shared his pain, as we put it? Never, that I can recall. I mean, he's, as you put it, comfortable when he's talking about angles, yeah? Well, that's him mentally comfortable because he can get away with talking about angles. Okay. Now, he knows that mentally he's uncomfortable when he's around us, and he knows why. Now, for him, cognitively, he hasn't got to that place that we're at yet. And I'm not saying that to be arrogant. It sounds so bad, but it's just a fact, isn't it? But, you know, softly, softly. And your compassion to the man in this regard, your concern about him, may be palpable to him. That's to say, these people who are perceived to be against me, my enemy, in the general mind's eye, I'm sure he doesn't see us that way either. We're not trying to persecute or bring down Danny Faulkner, are we? We say he's wrong and we point out why. But that's about it. Now, I'm sure he recognises those facts and realises that we're not out to get him. You know what I mean? Therefore, he may recognise that our concerns towards him have a compassionate potential behind them. Certainly in your case, right? You're not saying this because you want him to be punished for what he's doing, are you, Neil? You're not saying this because you want him to be held to task.
No, not at all. But when you willfully deceive like he is doing, there are points where he knows what he's talking about and he's willfully deceiving people.
How do you know he's willfully deceiving people, aka lying? No, I don't think he is. I think he's on his road, and like most people, they think they're righteous. He thinks he's righteous. He thinks he's correct. He isn't, and he's slowly finding that out, right? But finding that out doesn't mean he's got malice of forethought when he says stuff that's wrong. In this case, I don't agree with you.
So when he comes out with a book, Flat Earth, Flat and Wrong, Paula, let me explain something to you. Paula, Bible U, has spent a lot of time on this man.
Seen it.
Spoken to him many different occasions.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've
He
watched.
is refusing to accept the fact that Earth is flat because of his pride and his, all his knowledge. He won't do it.
Right. Do you think Paula would ever throw pearls to swine, Neil?
No.
Right. What did you just say about how much time
Yeah.
she spent on Danny?
Yeah, well, she's not anymore.
Yeah, she's
Neil,
done it.
Flat Earth Fight Wrong was Sunjanus, not Faulkner.
How is it
Whatever his book says. He's
Falling
got another
Flat.
book that says
You're talking about
this,
Falling
Flat, right? So we got two idiots that know Earth is flat
Let's
that are writing
forget about
books
Sungenis.
mocking
Let's
it.
keep the topic nice and clean. It doesn't matter that you got the title wrong. Falling Flat is Danny Faulkner's book. Who cares about the other one? We won't mention it again. It's not relevant. You just made a mistake. It doesn't matter. The point is, in terms of Paula, right, I give a lot of credence to what she does. Just generally, what's Paula doing? Not my Paula as she walks in and out of the room, but Bible you Paula, right? That has weight for me. Yeah, that means something. So I prick my ears at when she's dedicating the amount of time that she has done to unpacking something that someone has done. In this case, Danny Faulkner. That resonates with me. Yeah? Now, that doesn't mean I base my decision on whether or not he's evil, which I've already said. I don't think he is. You know, there are people out there that are fundamentally evil in this arena. Now, I also think that they're also tormented souls in some instances, not all. So there is a certain amount of give or take, whatever you leverage, latitude, whatever you want to call it, that you'd give those people for that reason, right? My empathy doesn't stop. But when somebody's getting extra, I don't call it kindness, but extra effort, let's call it, that gets noticed. You're like, oh, okay, you're willing to spend this much time on this person then, right? There's obviously something there. And I'd agree. God.
Nathan, you go out and you set out, especially in preaching the gospel. You do not know who the swine is until they reject what you're saying. She spent that time with him. That's all past tense, okay? And understand something. Pride is the worst. And that's what he has.
So
Pride
do you.
is
So
why
do I.
we're in
So
the
what?
situation we're in, because
So what?
Lucifer was full of pride.
Stop it. I know. So is everybody. Yeah? But there's a certain intent that certain people give off when they hang around that will get, again, noticed, and to a certain degree, when they're not being antagonistic, that can be admired as something that may blossom into something useful. Now, I'm not saying I'm doing it for purely altruistic reasons. Obviously, there's a benefit to my show when he comes on and talks to us, regardless of how long the pauses are. But nevertheless, there's certain people that might not get that kind of respect out of us. And he did. He got the respect that I'm sure he would have hoped for when he got here. I don't think he'd ever... I would hope he wouldn't say, no, those people were very disrespectful to me. Quite the contrary. I would hope he would say, no, actually, they treated me like just anybody else. Go ahead, Jardo.
No, sorry, that was an accident.
No worries.
No,
He didn't get special treatment, but by the same token...
He probably says, and I know I said it before, that we're nasty over here. We can't communicate because of you. When he came here, that was not displayed at all.
Has he said that?
So,
Are you just making this up? Have you heard him say those words?
yeah, that's all. That's what he said.
When has he said that? Give me a verbatim quote. I don't want to hear this unless you've got a quote.
All right, I'll find it.
Fine.
Give me a few minutes.
No problem. Anyway, my
He's
point
just
being...
an old teddy bear. He's just an old teddy bear set in his ways.
Yeah.
You know.
And there's certain lovable old dogs that will get attention regardless, won't they?
Yeah.
Right. I'm not saying he's lovable, but I'm saying by comparison in this metaphor to a lovable old dog, they still get a fuss. They still get attention. That's what he's getting from us, isn't he? Paula rubbing his belly, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah, I think he loves that. That's what he feeds on.
I don't think he's a narcissist. He doesn't strike me as one. And everybody likes attention. So again, I don't want to just immediately... When I just poo-poo what you've said in the way that I've just done, it isn't because I fundamentally disagree with you. On a certain level, Jardo, I do agree with you. everybody behaves in that way. But at a base level, the amount of attention that people generally just desire, yeah, is a far cry from that's their sole ambition to, get narcissistic supply, which is at the other end of the extreme. Now, everybody sits somewhere in between, especially if you're out doing things like we do on YouTube and we're broadcasting this stuff. So from that perspective, obviously, I agree with you. But fundamentally, I don't think that's his motivation. I don't think that's why he's out here. I don't think he just thrives on the attention. He doesn't strike me as a narc. He doesn't strike me as an attention seeker. He strikes me as somebody that wants to preach. He strikes me as a preacher. Now, having grown up around preachers, there's a certain amount of draw that I have to them when they're good, when they strike me as good people. Not good as in, I don't know how he preaches. I don't think I've ever seen him preach. But he is a preacher, and there's good preachers and bad preachers. And regardless of how right or wrong he is in this subject, there's a certain attraction to somebody who's a good preacher, and he strikes me as that type of person. He's measured enough for me to think, no, this person doesn't just blart out nonsense. Now, if he's comfortable and he has blurted out nonsense about me, precluding people from having communication, as Neil's just alluded to, then I'll obviously listen to it and maybe I'll change my tune. I'm pretty fickle. But nonetheless, he's getting attention for a reason. That's presumably because someone like Paula spotted some decency in him. Neil, it stinks. It's oozing out of you, the empathy for him, Neil. It's oozing out of you. Practically smell it. And there's nothing wrong with that. My birthday today.
Here's a
no empathy oozing
happy
out of me.
birthday too, by
There's
the way.
venom
Thank you very
oozing out of
much.
me.
Thank you. Oh, it's so kind of you to remember, having only mentioned it yesterday. Yeah, Neil.
No empathy, just venom.
I don't think that is the case. You think you got venom for him, but I don't think you have. You're more like disappointment if it's ever on the negative scale. You're just disappointed in him. You want him to do better. But if I focus on the latter part, you want him to do better. Well, again, that speaks volume, doesn't it? You want him to, when you say things like when he's preaching to his, I don't need to complete the sentence, but in other words, you want him to communicate your message. Well, there's hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of pastors and preachers and vicars, and do you concern yourself with them? Well, no. Well, is it just because he's here, opportunistic? No, I don't think so either. There's plenty of people that breeze by our domain. He's just another one, right? But you've concerned yourself with him as an individual for whatever reason. Same with QE.
Nathan, the only reason I bring him up is the fact that he was in Earth Awakenings and spent a lot of time on the mic. And when he was here, we couldn't get words out of him without breaking his arm. And they were very few. And then when Adam had his ass pinned against the wall, he had to go to a lunch meeting, and we never heard from him again. That is a guy who's picking and choosing who he's going to spew his nonsense to because he knows who he can get away with it. All right? That's the only reason I paid attention to him today.
Okay.
No, Paula said not that she recalls, so maybe I'm wrong, but I know I heard it somewhere. I will find the quote.
What quote are you looking for?
Danny Faulkner's excuse for not joining Flat Earth Debate the way he used to sit in Discord at the 24/7, and now he's on Earth Awakenings talking. I may have heard it from somebody in 24/7. I just asked Paul if he like had his in bed things to say about Nathan or Nathan's behavior. That's why he don't come here. She said not that I recall. So now I have to go to 24/7, grab a few guys there, and see, because I know I heard it. He's just a liar, and I have no stomach for liars.
You said
I
that
don't
twice
lie.
now. Where's the malice of forethought? Show me that.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Nathan, we spoke about it in the beginning of the show. Common man. Common man can understand this. And you're telling me that an educated man can't? He's been presented with the facts, and he's still spewing his nonsense about freaking eclipses?
Yeah, that was
Really?
dealt with by Jardo. Old dog. That's what that conversation was about.
So an educated man can't comprehend Earth measured flat. Okay. It's just for the simple then.
No, he's
I
looking,
feel special.
he's looking for the reason why a sphere Earth beneath his feet gets measured flat now. Cognitively, that doesn't make sense. There's no other addition to that. That's it. But, you know, he doesn't know that. It doesn't mean he's got malice and he's intentionally deceiving people. That is to say, for that to be the case, he would know that fundamentally he's incorrect and that Earth is measured flat because it's flat. Now, at the moment, he might know that Earth is measured flat. He hears it from us, but might think it's flat because it's a really big ball. Now, cognitively, that obviously doesn't make sense and will be a journey that he's on to try and make sense for his bias of a ball. Again, that doesn't in any way suggest malice. That just suggests he's wrong.
I just see him in a constant state of reconciliation. He's a conversationalist. He loves to talk. He loves to throw ideas. He loves to listen to people. And he won't go where he doesn't get reconciliation or conversation. It's pretty simple.
Now here he doesn't love to talk.
What do you mean, reconciliation?
So there's a lot of people out there, I'm going to say my older brother included, who's a geocentrist globalist, Catholic apologist. They hold on true to all their values. They'll defend them. But what they'll do is they'll always tempt with conversation so they can reconcile their thoughts and their ideas. And that's exactly what these people do.
I still don't understand. Reconcile to new ideas. What does that mean?
No, reconcile their own ideas. So, for example, if you say to them an absolute fact that the Earth is measured flat, it's practically flat, I'm not going to entertain any other ideas, then they won't speak to you because that's not a conversation or reconciliation of their thoughts.
Okay.
You guys can make excuses for them all you want. He's an outright liar.
Okay, I don't know. I'm just wrapping my head around what hold on a second, Neil. Just wrapping my head around one thing at a time. So you're saying that if I was to talk to a Scientologist and try and persuade them that I'm not interested in talking about Xenu, and they turn around and say, well, I'm not interested in having a conversation with you unless it's about Xenu and how Xenu is a part of our world, or from your perspective, how Xenu's not a part of your world. If you're saying you're just not going to talk about Xenu's existence or non-existence, then I'm not willing to have that conversation with you at all, because the only conversations I'm willing to have are ones where you say Xenu doesn't exist and I say he does, because then we can have an argument about it and I can demonstrate within that discussion how Xenu does exist and how you're wrong about him not existing. But you suggesting that you're just not even going to have the conversation, it's absurd to even talk about it. Why would I talk about it? It's silly. Would result in that Scientologist saying, I'm just not going to talk to you then, at all.
Now, what I'm saying is that if you're going to use a Scientologist example, let's say that Scientologist has questions in their own mind about the authenticity of Xenu and their own religion, perhaps.
Who's this in the example?
And what they
Me
need to
or
do-
Danny, just so we can keep characters in the comparison. Who's that, Danny or me?
No, that would be Danny.
Okay.
And what they need to do is they need to find someone that they can depart both their positive and negative thoughts about their own ideology in a controlled environment where someone gets to output their examples and get input from other people. That's where Danny is, and that's where other people are. If they present their ideology to someone that outrightly rejects it, whether it's with facts or whatever, they won't entertain that person because they need that personal reconciliation about their own thoughts.
Okay. So
That's
what
why
you're
he
saying
goes
is they
there at
need
the
somebody...
Awakenings.
Neil, I've just asked you twice. Can I just have this out with Chado, please? Thanks. I've lost my train of thought.
I'll give you an example. So if you're a Catholic, you go to confession. You go to confession to seek exemption from your sins through the priest who acts on behalf of God. If you went to a certain priest who was deflective and arrogant and dismissive of what you were trying to offer up as a sin, then you would no longer go to confession again.
Gotcha. Now that makes a lot more sense. In other words, in this hypothetical example, we act as the priest taking the confession. Now, the baller wants to project all of his concerns and fears onto the priest in a nice, isolated circumstance where the ideas can bounce off the priest and the concerns of the distressed confessor can be heard by the priest. Now, if we're the priest, we have to accept the pain of the confessor and they have to have our ear while that process commences. Now, what you're saying is, and what I'm hearing over the last few days in terms of what I'm not willing to enable from our opponents anymore, is that for our opponents, let's say Danny in this example, to reconcile their own concerns about their religious belief in a ball, in a sky vacuum, they need us to act as the priest so that they can project their concerns and reconcile their own journey with us as their muse and as their beating pole as they go through that process. Not necessarily for Danny, but a lot of the others. And me, I'm saying, I don't want to be your priest and listen to your confession anymore. What's that? You want me to unravel and unpack this non-gyroscopic fixed in space, actually drifting gyro that you need to not be measured in these measurements. I don't care. I'm not your priest. Go and have the ear of someone else because I don't want to be your priest. Now, when I say these things, my audience goes, well, no, you need to be that priest for the people. Otherwise, you won't lead them like a flock to the flat earth that we all live on. And I've gone, I don't care. I'm not a shepherd. And they've gone, well, yeah, but you should be shepherding them. That's just lazy. Not really. I mean, this flock, they don't pay me, they bite me, they spit on me. Why would I want to shepherd them anywhere? But they want me to be their priest and they want me to have their pain, don't they? I said, sod that. I'm sick of having your pain. You can all bugger off. Moan at each other, have each other's ear about bending this and gravitational that and drifting this, because I couldn't give a crap anymore. We know what the score is, right? We got all the measurements. We're done. We're done here. Thank you very much. Now, as a consequence of that attitude, which has obviously been pouring out of me without me actually verbalising it so concisely, people like Danny go, well, I don't want to get involved if you're just going to point out that you've won already. I'd rather get involved with people who don't understand that they've won already, so I can try and reconcile my globe Earth discussion with them while I share my pain and project it onto them. The pain being the concerns and the reconciliation that hasn't been reconciled yet. That discussion point is just those people acting as his priest so that he can give his confession to them about where he's at in terms of figuring out what the world is. Well, frankly, I don't care. There's people we're going to now leave behind. That's the way I see this. We'll be leaving quite a large chunk of people behind who are still in the misapprehensive stage of thinking there's a debate to have about what Earth is. Nah, there's never been a debate. It's always measured flat. Always was and always will be. That's how everything functions, always. So there's never been a debate. And yes, foolishly, I got involved with that debate for 10 years, but really there's no need for me to do that anymore. Nothing's going to change what's measured about Earth, ever. And the attempt, as I was departing this situation where I ended up having to be the priest to people in pain over their religious belief in a globe being wrong, ended at the point where they started going out and measuring Earth flat repeatedly, like thousands of times. That's how it ended as I departed my role as their priest, so that they could share their pain with me. Not for any thanks, not for any payment. So they can sod off. I didn't get any payment out of them and didn't get any thanks out of them. Quite the contrary. I got stomped down and ridiculed while they had my ear to share their pain about their religious belief going wrong. They're not my flock. Dan's not my flock. I can pretend he's my brother, but he isn't. Dave McKeegan's not my flock. And every tosser underneath him, watching him, that doesn't realise how stupid he is when he measures Earth flat and says it's a ball, they're not my flock either. They all hate me. So I don't want to lead any of them. Now you guys, you're all ace. But frankly, you guys like me. So obviously I'm going to like you back. You're all ace. So there's a symbiotic relationship between me and the people who are around me. But we are at that stage, 10 years into the discussion, where we go, it is time to move on from the debate. The namesake of the show can say, because there's always going to be people who think they're on a ball that want to tell me I'm wrong. That'll never change. But for you, between you, me, and the goalposts, there's no competition. It's ended. It wasn't ever a competition. It was just a pretend facade. Yeah? A game that pretended to be played. A bit like sport in general. Like if you look at football leagues, or any league, you get to the end of the season, everyone rearranges a bit, but what's really achieved? Someone's declared the champion, and then a month later, they're not. I mean, they're holding the trophy, but they're back at square one. Well, that's what needs to happen. We need to fight all day long and end up back at square one. And to conclude this, that's what Danny's achieving in this regard. So we can fight and then get back to square one. Well, we're not at square one. We're off the board. There wasn't ever a board to be on. There's an illusion of a board, and you can waste a lot of time being on that board. Well, I'm done with it. Let's toss the board off the table and get on with other things. We know it's flat. It's been measured. We checked. You checked. Our opponents checked. We all know that's how it's dealt with. What's that? There's a load of flock that need leading. Yeah, well, they shouldn't have bit my heels for 10 years. Or I'd care. I don't. There are people out there that do, and will spend their time going forward, maybe for the next 5 years, offering their empathy to the so-called flock that I'm describing hypothetically, of wankers, let's call them what they are, who have somehow developed concern from within a nice community of people who do actually have love and concern for others and don't want to see others screwed over. But their love has spilled over into monsters that would rather see them dead. So, me, I'll just turn my back on all of those people now. It's like, I don't need the Simon Dans and the Daves and the Craigs. I don't need these people in my life anymore. There is no symbiotic relationship. I know Earth is flat. And when it comes to someone saying, nah, I've got a religious belief of a ball. Okay, well, let's take 5 minutes to find out where your religious belief in a ball starts with a flat Earth measurement then, if that's what you want to impose on me, not like I've asked. I haven't asked you to convert me back to Scientology. It's as rude as coming along to an ex-Scientologist and saying, no, Xenu Israel, let me tell you all the reasons. That's very rude, isn't it? You know me, I'm an ex-heliocentrist. Now, why are you an ex-heliocentrist? Well, because Earth was always measured flat. Now, that is the end of this discussion. All that's going to be from this point forward is fundamentalist religious zealots who want to impose their heliocentric religious worldview onto me after I point out that I've left their cult. I've left your cult. And I couldn't give a toss about you telling me I need to know about Xenu. I mean about how heliocentrism works. Now I've left your cult. Yeah, I've done enough investigation. You've kept me in limbo for 10 years, telling me that I need to learn about how heliocentrism works. And I've learned. And all I learned was how flat Earth must be measured to develop your heliocentric belief. So sod off, stop trying to re-indoctrinate me into your cult. I'm done with it, thanks. I can move on now. Yeah? My book brings me closure to this 10 years of figuring out there was never a debate to be had. Earth was always measured flat by everybody always, and it will continue to be so. So I can get on with my life. You, Muppets, that is, can stay perpetually arguing about how the flat Earth we measured gets turned into a ball. You can do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not interested. I'm going to move on.
But what about the new information?
Nothing's new. What new information? There isn't any. Earth was always being measured flat, navigated flat, flown over flat, sailed on flat, mapped flat, charted flat, built on flat. It's obviously flat. So what new information would that be, Neil?
I have a few words here. I used to believe the Earth was flat, but new information made me change my mind. I left the flat Earth community and went on with my life. I haven't said much about it, but was thinking the other day. TFE breathed new life into flat Earth. Without TFE, flat Earth would be flatlining. Actually, FE is dead because of truth. But the flat Earth community can't accept that because when they have nothing, because then they have nothing and look like idiots. They'd have to stop making videos, vacate their channels, kill the Flat Earth app, cease attacking anyone who left Flat Earth, stop meetups, and admit they were wrong. TFE gave Flat Earthers who were circling the drain something to fight against, when before that, FE was getting no attention from mainstream. The Flat Earth conference circuit dried up, and no one was making a documentary or paying Flat Earth the least bit of attention, except as a punchline to a joke. Quite a few people had left already or had stopped making content. Now it's become a bit exciting again. Flat Earthers can now hate Will Duffy, lie about those of us who left Flat Earth, and claim the government or some shadowy organization is behind TFE, and those who left Flat Earth, which proves Flat Earth is legit in their eyes. They can't handle the truth that Flat Earth is on TFE life support like a what does that say? Reanimated yet comatose body. Almost, but not yet corpse, waiting for the documentary to officially pull the plug. I told you there was a documentary coming. Flat Earthers, meanwhile, as always, are tearing each other apart. I'm so glad I'm out. Rest in peace, Flat Earth. Rest in pieces. That was from Patricia Steer.
That was from Patricia
That's
Steer,
it.
eh? How interesting. Sorry, and Patricia Steer has done what to find out how flat Earth is measured? For Patricia Steer's information on screen now is the section of flat Earth that gets measured to be transferred into hell so it can functionally operate on a flat plane inside a ball. Earth is measured flat in all instances. Patricia Steer hasn't got the slightest idea what she's talking about. She interviewed people about how they came to flat Earth, and not one of them told her that Earth was measured flat. She disappeared before that information was becoming prevalent. So she's saying she's glad she's out of a community. Yeah, she is. She's out of a community called Flat Earth. But the Earth itself isn't about a community, Patricia. Perhaps you didn't realise Earth is measured flat. I mean, I couldn't care less what Patricia Steer believes when I know how Earth is measured. But there is obviously a sleeper element to many of these people who need to project the lies that are being told about a community disbandment. A community of shills that are now leaving after telling their respective communities that the community is in tatters. Meanwhile, my community understands how Earth is measured. And my community is discussing how everybody from the ball Earth opponent side has to tiptoe around us to avoid talking about how Earth gets measured flat in their responses to us. Me, currently, today, I'm talking about how we will be moving on ourselves because there was never a debate to be had. Now, obviously, Patricia Steer is welcome to remain in the comparable to Scientology cult of heliocentrism, passed down from the heliocentric word of mouth through the church. Now, she's welcome to that church rhetoric. But that church rhetoric, just for Patricia Steer's information, also comes with a flat Earth measurement to create the ball. Maybe she was unaware and just hadn't done the research. Yeah? Obviously not. Because she's there for that purpose. She's there to put that statement out. And I couldn't care less. Like, tomorrow we won't mention her name again. She'll be completely forgotten about. What will we be talking about? Will we be talking about the altogether forgettable Patricia Steers comments on a community? Or will we be talking about how Dan... Yeah, remember Simon Dan? He's on Patricia Steers' side. So obviously, Patricia's going to be taking Dan's 1,000 flat Earth measurements into consideration when she talks about how the community's dead. Really? Maybe. Maybe the community of flat earthers is dead. I was excluded from that quite some time ago and really don't care too much about it, given that we carried on investigating Earth and how it's measured. And so did Simon Dan. And then he measured it with 1,000 participants with flat Earth elevation angles. So did Dave. In Antarctica, the TFE that is being appealed to by Patricia Steer here, yeah? Dave McKeegan, I'll give you as one example. There's many others. Maybe I could use two, but we'll use Dave. Measured Earth flat for 24 hours in the Antarctic. If you're going to allege that they measured Earth's surface for the elevation angle that they measured, the angle's off the surface, it's an elevation angle, and part of the angle is the straight line that forms the angle along surface level, meaning that Dave measured Earth flat in Antarctica at TFE. But for the fact that Patricia and I have literally pressed the flesh, I wouldn't be too concerned about putting this directly to anybody currently, because who cares? But out of consideration for a old friend, let's call her, yeah? Earth's measured flat, Patricia. Maybe you were unaware. We checked. You checked. Now you're a baller, yeah? Simon Dan's your man. And he checked 1,000 times. Earth was measured flat every single time. Your boys, the ones you wanted a ticker tape parade for, the heroes that you wanted to welcome back, we agree, yeah? Dave and Toon have been getting praised quite highly for their excellent measurements of a flat Earth with elevation angles to the sun for a 24-hour period. Praise be to TFE, I say. Give them that ticker tape parade. They measured Earth flat.
Nathan,
Yes.
just recently, did you get an email from Will Duffy inviting you to the final debate?
I did. I did not respond.
It's interesting. Did you respond?
No, I didn't even open it. I saw it in my list of thousands of emails. I scroll through them in the morning. I'm like, an email from Duffy, eh? I scrolled straight past it. Went to see if I'd sold any microphones.
I posted
Final debate?
I posted in Master B the response from Dave Moore in relation to that email. Pretty funny.
So somebody's read it then, because I haven't. Was there any money being offered? Because if I then found out after the fact that there was money being offered, I'd go back and read it. I highly doubt it.
No, I don't think there was any money.
Oh, well, then I made the right decision to ignore it then, didn't I?
Yeah, allegedly Dave responded, which was pretty funny.
Can you read it? Or do you want to read it when we go live in a minute? Can you dig it out?
Yeah, it's in Master B. So I posted it about 20 minutes ago.
Yeah. But I'm asking if you can read it.
Yeah, of course.
How are you?
All right. Very well, Neil. How are you?
Hello.
Hello.
I'm okay, but supposedly flat Earth is dead. I don't know.
So in the pre-show, we read out a note from Patricia Steer. Now, I mean, back in the day, Patricia Steer was heavily criticised for not doing any flat Earth experiments. Oh, the irony. She used to say the same sort of thing. I mean, I'm not doing any flat Earth experiments. I just interview people. Yeah, you do. But obviously, you're going to form an opinion on whether or not you believe the Earth is flat. And having departed from this flat Earth community, she's got something to say about it, which is all well and good. Obviously, she's entitled to her opinion. But we've moved on from the opinions of people formed from interviewing others about how they came to the conclusion that Earth was flat. when we've got measurements of a flat Earth that are being affirmed by our opponents in places like Antarctica, which got wrote about by Patricia Steer also. So just to summarise, when we're praising the boys who've come back with flat Earth measurements from Antarctica, it seems bizarre that people would leave a so-called community, not that I was a part of that community, for it not being flat. It's measured flat by the boys in Antarctica. Didn't you hear? I mean, I'll do a little reconstruction. Where are the guns, Nathan? Where are the guns? Yeah, that's me pointing out that Earth's measured flat with the angles taken in Antarctica. The response was deflect to guns. Maybe you heard my name echoing around the Antarctic snow. Or maybe you didn't. Maybe you didn't think it would be important to check in with me, Patricia. Meanwhile, Earth is measured flat. An example would be the elevation, that's height off the surface. That's what elevation is. Elevation angle measurements to the sun for a 24-hour period in Antarctica. That would be 24 hours of measuring Earth flat. You've got a surface level measurement. It forms part of the angle. Now, obviously, if you've recently departed the flat Earth, and this could be very embarrassing for you, that's embarrassing for Patricia Steer to hear what I'm saying now. That is to say, you, Patricia Steer, now have a couple of choices. Yeah. Obviously, I'm extending this courtesy as we're old friends. You can deny the measurements of elevation angles to the sun for 24 hours. The whole point of going down there, to measure Earth. You can deny those measurements of Earth, or you can affirm on your knees that Earth was measured flat for a 24-hour period with elevation angle measurements. That's two straight lines, one being the surface level, meeting at a vertex. That is what they measured. Earth was measured flat. I mean, obviously, if that's not satisfactory and you want someone else from the community to tell you, yeah, then allow Simon Dan to tell you about the 1,000+ flat Earth angle measurements he made to the sun. Because he too measured Earth flat and affirmed how flat Earth will and has and will always be measured. Because that's how Earth's measured. I mean, you'd have thought you'd have checked before making embarrassing declarations of leaving communities of flat earthers. No. I mean, we're talking about leaving them too. Like the people who believe Earth's flat, we're going to leave those behind. There's no point being engaged in discussions where you get ridiculed as a flat earther who believes Earth's flat. We don't need any of that. We're going to also walk away from those communities that you're talking about, knowing that Earth is measured flat. Yeah, as opposed to akin to Scientology-like belief in heliocentrism passed down from the Roman Catholic Church several hundred years ago from the pulpit. Now, we know that religion that Patricia Steer seems to have decided to go back to, whilst declaring that the government's not the hidden hand, how interesting and shilly. But nevertheless, she's walking back to a religion of a ball that's measured also with flat Earth surface level measurements. That's where we're at. Earth's measured flat for your heliocentric orbital motion and ball belief. That's correct. You'd have thought you'd have checked before making these public statements. Meanwhile, what's actually happening is we're being censored. The reason I'm so comfortable with lights and camera, which I'm not typically doing, right? Normally I'd be off camera, worried about how I look to the general public when there's 100+ people watching. Yeah, we're being censored to all frick. That's what's happening to us. But your statements about our flat Earth are dead have managed to make their way to me. Somebody completely indifferent to what you have to say about the matter, Patricia. Meanwhile, survey says flat. Oh, that was affirmed by Dan. Not that we need Dan to affirm what surveyors survey. They're measuring Earth flat. I mean, only for 50 kilometres because it's locally negligible curvature that you ain't measuring when you measure Earth flat. Not you. We. Us. Collectively, you measure Earth flat. That's how it's surveyed. Yeah? Simon says it's flat. Survey says it's flat. Flights say it's flat. Sea level says it's flat. Surface level says it's flat. Earth curve maths says it's flat. It's required. It's part of the angles to the stars measured in this diagram, labelled as latitude. Do you think the termination of this angle measurement is in hell for you? Because that's where you'll end up. believing you're in a ball, measuring angles to these stars off the equatorial plane that's measured. You're not in hell measuring ball Earth angles from a core that's all hot. You're measuring a flat Earth for angles. That's what an angle is. It's two straight lines. One's the surface level. Like the angles that Dan and Dave measured. So, Patricia's embarrassing departure won't matter that I'm pointing out how embarrassing and stupid it is, because that'll make the mainstream, right? That'll get passed around. Look at it, flat Earth's dead, says Patricia Steer, a former flat earther. Just like Jaron, the former leader of flat Earth. All right, well, the new leader of flat Earth, that's me, says Earth's measured flat, and I don't need any community behind me to point these facts out. In fact, my opponents will do it for me. Like Dan. Yeah, okay. Surveyors take it to be flat. But that doesn't mean it's flat. Yeah, it does. That's how it's measured. Or, yeah, we're measuring surface level elevation angles to the sun for a 24-hour period off a flat Earth. Doesn't mean it's flat. Yeah, it does. So you've measured it. So that's where we're at. But where are you at? Back on the ball. Oh, how quaint. Heliocentric orbital motion comes by measuring a flat Earth. Yeah? Now you know. That's the news. Patricia Steers put out a public statement about flat Earth being dead. Maybe I agree with her. The community that was built up by a controlled opposition's dead. Earth's still being measured flat, though. It always was and always will be.
I actually thanked Will Duffy for getting rid of all the pretender clowns. Good job. We appreciate it. Now the people that understand what was accomplished, I mean, she's so stupid she fell for the false dichotomy that they put forth. And just like Jaron. So this is what you have. But maybe that was what they wore the whole time.
Remember Gautier?
Huh?
Gautier, the band. Gautier had a very, very famous song called Now You're Just Somebody That I Used to Know. And that is how people like Patricia Steer get treated. Okay? So your assertion is that the community is dead. Okay? Who asked you to point that out? Hadn't you left it? Well, no, it isn't dead. I'm very much alive. I've very much got a community. I've been paying my mortgage with it for the last 8 years. So you can say and suggest there's no community. All right? How am I keeping a roof over my head and the lights on? Struggle though it is, I am doing exactly that. This is the longest job I've ever had. I do consider YouTubing a job. And in terms of employment and paying the mortgage, this is the longest I've ever done anything for ever. What's anything specifically? Flat Earth YouTuber. A professional flat Earth YouTuber says the community's not dead. Earth's measured flat. Yeah? Put that as my quote response to Patricia Steer's nonsense. But yes, obviously, if there's going to be a figurative moving around of all of the main players in Flat Earth, you're going to need a new king. We also would need a new queen. Eric DeBay can have that position.
That's not fair. She even mentions Eric Dubay and Mark Sargent that all of a sudden now, because of this, they're all out of work, and they just can't face the facts that flat Earth is dead. But see, they looked at it as a topic when it's the reality. So how can it be dead? It cannot not be measured flat anymore. It's flat. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, isn't it interesting? So when I had the foresight to see my stats going in a direction I didn't like, regardless of how hard I worked against that, I decided rather than be in a position 6, 8, 10 months from now, this is retrospectively speaking, like from the past. So past future tense for Paula if she's listening. Very confusing, right? I thought I need to do something about this so that I don't end up 9 months from now having to e-beg just to keep the lights on. Now, don't get me wrong. If this projector or this monitor or something fails, there's a good chance that, as I'm always on a knife edge anyway, I'll have to e-beg for it. But currently, everything's working, and I haven't got to e-beg. Now, Eric DeBay has recently, and understandably so, come out and gone, times are getting really tough. And I go, yeah, I could see this coming because I keep a close eye on my stats, but it doesn't mean that Eric keeps a close eye on his stats. Now, me being reactive to his plight actually became a Patreon of DeBay's. Admittedly, at the very lowest minimum level you can be a patron for Eric DeBay. But I'm like, yeah, okay, I totally get it. This could have caught me out if I wasn't an ex-salesman and kept a really close eye on my statistics, which is all this is in terms of keeping it fun and keeping it like a game when you're doing your job, which is what this is. This is me being a flat earth YouTuber, needing to keep the lights on and mitigating for a dip in, it's not sales, it's views, but it's the same thing. It's the same statistical analysis, and I saw it coming. So I'm not e-begging. I mean, admittedly, you've got a slightly different backdrop with a load of microphones behind me. But other than that, nothing's changed much for me. I saw this coming. But has my community changed or diminished? No. If anything, big shout out to you. It's my birthday today if you want to support me financially. Hint, hint, if you want a super chat. But I'm not in the frame of mind to need to e-beg, right? I am not in that place. I've made sure, admittedly, it wasn't just for the foresight of knowing my statistics well. Yeah, I knew that the book was taking longer than expected, and the book originally was a mitigation for me constantly moaning that I'm on a knife edge struggling to pay my mortgage. Mortgages, plural. Nevertheless, you know, that mitigation, the book, that is, chewed up time, ended up meaning less videography, slight dip that got assessed and readdressed with extra videos that then still didn't mitigate for the dip. So I think, this is a statistical anomaly that I maybe need to do something else about, and then ended up buying in microphones with a chunk of cash that I was given. But it means that unlike DeBay, and I'm not knocking him for it, like I say, I've supported him, so I don't get knocked for saying these things. He's had to e-beg where I haven't. That's not me saying I'm better than him, far from it. I'm sure he's probably financially better off. You know, in fact, I've got more justification to e-beg to keep above the poverty line. But I don't want to when I've got a book on the horizon, metaphorically speaking, and I have. Yeah? And that will do something. That will have an impact. That will explain my general demeanour towards the so-called dead community. Maybe I should lean into Patricia Steer's comment. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that flat earth community of believers is dead. And the people that you say we should thank maybe Duffy for, maybe you've got agreement from people like Neil, because he's agreeing, isn't he? Saying, yeah, thanks Duffy, you got rid of a whole load of pretender clown flat earth believers. What's left? Well, just a very solid community of people who know Earth is measured flat and can example it 6 ways from Sunday. Because that's how Earth's measured. We're in a community where our opponents are telling us that Earth's measured flat too and apologising for it. That's what we've got going on in this community that is very much alive. End of ramble.
Didn't Eli want to go over a video, or are you just going to chat today?
I'm in my chair. I'm more laid back than ever, right? So for my birthday today, I asked my wife if I could get some risers. So I've got these Equorns. They're called stressless chairs, right? And they're large, like me. And the problem with them is they're too low. So my long legs, when I sit down into them, I'm, number one, dropping down too low and smashing my spine every time I sit down, which is no good. So what she got me was risers. Like, they just lift the thing up by 2 or 3 inches. It's not much, but it's enough to make them far more comfortable, these chairs. So I've just looked across at the delayed signal on my preview, and there's me sat all leant back, looking as laid back as I can. And I'm like, my God, you look like a right slob on camera. Maybe this isn't the right time to pick being on camera just because the numbers are down, because they're starting to go back up again, right? There was 100 watching a couple of days ago. I look like a slob. Just me squashed my fat belly right on camera. On the other hand, it does speak volumes, right? I'm not really distressed. I'm not worried about this alleged community that's so-called quote-unquote dying. You're like, no, and my community's not doing that. I mean, I'm getting pushed to less of the general public. My videos, in terms of their exposure through algorithmic love, is at an all-time low. That doesn't change the people who are generally around me, giving me super chats and supporting me how they do. People are still doing that, and they always will. You know, there's a certain longevity to the people around me that I've learned over the last 10 years. You know, People stick around us, don't they, Neil? Shout out to... actually, I've asked you a question. Go ahead, Neil. You answer, and then I'll shout out these super chats.
Yes. Go ahead. Do your shout out.
Shout out to Roger Ledwell for hitting the super chat. Jardo also... did you gift memberships, or I don't know what kind of super chat that was, but he said, happy 50th birthday, the cheeky sod. Obviously not 50. 1980 kind of gives the game away. But he knows that, and I know that, and I know he's just ribbing me. So thank you, Jardo, for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. Also, Roger Ledwell, it's a magical day after all. Happy birthday. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat. Really appreciate it. And also Mike808, who just says happy birthday. Really appreciate all the super chats. Thank you very much indeed for the support. I really do appreciate it. Yeah, it is mildly upsetting with Patricia Steer because she's a mate, right? I would have considered her a mate. We've met, we've pressed the flesh, we've spent long hours talking to each other via Skype, now defunct Skype. And there you go, yeah, it's a bit of a shame. So I will take the time to point out where we're at to somebody individualistically, this case Patricia Steer, and say, yeah, we've measured Earth flat. That's the end of the discussion. There wasn't one. The whole point of the last 10 years was to create a community that you say is dead, to create the impression of a debate based on there being a believing side of flat Earth that just went on and on about how Earth isn't a sphere and we see too far and all that kind of crap that we call the feast of nonsense. Well, that was us edging towards the facts in the matter, which is Earth's measured flat by everybody. There's no getting away from it. And an attempt to try and subvert me saying these facts will lead you, like Dan, to measuring Earth flat 1,000 times. I mean, that is the inevitable.
Well, I only take offense to one thing, where she says we tear each other to pieces. We do not do that. Sorry to say.
Shut up, Neil.
If somebody comes in here with nonsense, yeah, they're going to get handed their ass. No doubt about it. We don't tear each other apart.
Few more shout-outs. Never a straight answer. Happy birthday. And then cake, balloon, and snory face emoji. I don't know what the snory face is for, but we'll be probably getting a snooze later. Thank you very much for the super chat. Never a straight answer. And Pablo, happy birthday. Thanks for the high value content. Really appreciate the support. Thank you very much indeed.
Happy birthday, Nathan.
Well, thank you very
Hope
much.
you have a wonderful day. Hope you have a belting day, and I just hope you have a great day, mate. Just
Yeah, it's a
enjoy
shame
it,
it's not on
relax.
Saturday. And it's a shame I'm not 12 or something, because if I was, I'd get away with calling this like a sick day at school or whatever. Although it's holiday time for the kids, right? No one's at school anyway. Yes, Nathan, that's correct. Everyone's on 6 weeks holidays. Yeah, I wouldn't know. I homeschool my two, so obviously holidays are a bit alien to us. But if you say so. Yeah, definitely 6 weeks holiday. Ah, okay, fair enough. I didn't really realise. But thank you for telling me, one deck. It's nice to have a holiday-based birthday. It's a shame it's midweek. Obviously, I've got to do the show. I haven't got to do the show, but I like doing the show.
Could be worse, mate. You could be running around like a lunatic, fixing fridges that are breaking down everywhere in 35-degree heat when they're only designed to work in 30 degrees. That's what I'm currently doing.
Shout out to Dan, although he hasn't hit me up on the super chat. He's hit me up via PayPal. Thank you very much indeed for the PayPal. $50. Wow, thank you so much. He says, happy birthday, Nathan. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, happy birthday. I said happy birthday to you yesterday, so happy birthday again.
Hey,
Happy
thanks.
birthday.
Sorry, Neil.
Thank you, Dank. I heard you. Anyway, yeah, it's a bit disappointing. Like the sting that I used to describe from wanting to better educate the now out of the woodwork shills like Jaron and Patricia in terms of getting their rhetoric to a higher standard. My frustration, my lack of sleep as a result, was because the person that we're talking about was formerly on our side, and you want that person to have a good argument, know how to defeat the opponent's argument, etc. The sort of standards, albeit at a much, much higher level when I'm talking about it in reference to yesterday's show, the kind of standards that Brian wants from me, right? His expectations, yeah? Right, I'd call Brian a mate. So when Brian is... I'm criticising Brian going, you're making me out to be stupid, like I don't get this because I haven't got the time to research it and you have, therefore you're better. That kind of tit-for-tat mates ribbing each other about how good Brian is compared to me, yeah? with a nudge between the ribs from Brian in terms of him having a better knowledge base in terms of gyroscopic motion, which he does. I'm not going to deny it. But that's the sort of high standard that we at Flat Earth Debate expect of each other. Now, while I don't expect that standard, that exceptionally high standard from someone like Patricia or Jaron, I would expect them to understand some of the arguments to the point where they can undermine next man or next woman when they come and debate this stuff. I mean, obviously, next woman might be next man in the case of Brenda or whoever, but you know what I'm talking about. Jaron has showed useful knowledge of things like the black swan to overcome Brenda, which is why she's being used in that example. And you go, okay, so you do understand these arguments, but when I've tried to explain them to him and been undermined and cast down, chastised even, for attempting to put these arguments coherently to people who are bracing against them throughout the last however many years, was always very distressing and frustrating. And I used to lose sleep over it. It's like, why would this person on my side not want to know this argument? Now we know, they were all primed to come out and say, it's not a government hidden hand and Flat Earth community's dead, says Patricia and Jaron. And you go, right. Well, that's good. That's a right relief. Now I don't have to worry about you, do I? Yeah? Previously, I was all concerned about Jaron and Patricia and people like them. Yeah? I mean, Dave, our Dave, Big Ball Dave, still frustrates me because he's alleged to be on our side, isn't he, with all of his shilly shite that gets debunked by our opponents. But that's in the past now, isn't it? Who cares what Dave's doing? We've evolved beyond this crap. We know Earth was always being measured flat, and 90% of Dave's arguments will whistle straight past the flat Earth he needs his opponents to appeal to when he argues for how we see too far, based on flat Earth measurements of surface level for your height above it in Earth curve maths. Meanwhile, we'll leave people like Dave. I'll forego the stress and frustration that I used to feel for Jaron and Patricia and people just like them, wanting them to do better. But now they're not even in our community, right? Our community being people like Neil and One Deck and Simon Dan and Dave McKeegan. Our community, we all know Earth's being measured flat because we are all measuring Earth flat. You've departed from the community, Jaron and Patricia. Good for you. Yeah? We, Dan and Dave McKeegan, will continue to measure Earth flat, though. Okay? It's goodbye you. Another couple of shout-outs. Shout-out to Duncan McLeod. Happy birthday, Nathan. Thank you very much indeed, Duncan. Also, Pin Puncher. Happy birthday to an absolute legend. Oh, thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate it, Pin Puncher. So yeah, I don't have to worry about Patricia Steer anymore. That's good. Don't have to worry about Jaron anymore. Good. I never really worried about any of the people on our opponent's side anyway. I never gave them a second thought after the show's ended. But there's less and less people in this so-called community to worry about. And the people I worried about are all the people, what a coincidence. All the people I used to stress about are the exact same people coming out and saying it's actually a ball after all. Oh, just a weird coincidence, I guess, that all the people that gave me all the grief all over the years that were on the Flat Earth side are the exact same people. Just a coincidence, I guess. Give it another couple of years and Big Ball Dave will show his true colours, perhaps. Who knows? But who else is there? Who else gives us stress? That was one of the reasons I became a Patreon of Eric Debase. I'm like, when has he actually given me any grief? Never. Right? I've given him more grief. Back in the day, 10 years ago, I was calling him a shill and re-uploading various videos that were people suggesting that he behaved shilly and certain allusions to the idea that he was in that way. I parroted. So, like, on balance, I was more of a shit to Eric Debase than he was to me or has ever been. There you go, people, what's that Christian phrase about that know them by their fruit, right? Well, Debase's done that over the last 10 years. Now, do I agree with him? No. There's plenty of things Debase does that I absolutely despise. But he's just a dude out there doing what he does without behaving like an abject shill, causing me headaches and to lose sleep. I don't think I've ever lost any sleep over Debase. I've often commented and politely praised him, sometimes given him super thanks in his comments, because I'm like, good video. And you're like, this is the complete antithesis of what I had to deal with people like Jaron. I had to stress and fight tooth and nail just to get him to acknowledge a decent argument. I never had to do that with Debase. You know what I mean? I just don't want people to turn around and go, well, Dubay thinks this about Christians. Yeah, I know. I'm well aware.
Hey, I got something Paula just sent me. She said, I'll read it verbatim. I had no delusions of educating a closed mind like Faulkner's. My only goal was to expose him.
Her only what? I missed the last part. I was distracted by two eBay notifications.
Our
actually.
only goal was to expose him.
Sure. But she maybe didn't hear my sentiment in this regard, right? You don't throw pearls to swine. And if he's your subject matter, he's obviously a worthy subject matter.
Gotta stop you there.
Well, okay.
I said that to her. I'll read mine. I said, Nathan seems to think. Hold on. Oh, Nathan seems to think you spend time trying to educate Faulkner, so that shows that he is not swine. And that's
not
what
how
she
I put
gave
it.
the answer she gave.
Why'd you paraphrase what I actually said?
I had to do it that way. What do you mean?
No, you
I gotta
didn't.
get it in my favor.
Well, she's heard my sentiment now. I said Paula wouldn't throw pearls to swine.
Right, but from the beginning, she's saying she knew all about it. She's just trying to expose him because he goes around. Listen, he didn't say verbatim what he said, but she did say that she has heard him say in the past that he whines about FE behavior in general. Okay?
Yeah, but is it unjustified, right? There's plenty of people that moan about me and my behaviour, right? Now, I'm not going to say Paula specifically, but Paula would be one of the people that would be offering constructive criticism, let's just say, in terms of my demeanour, my behaviour, my language. Now, that's done out of love, and I completely understand why certain people like Paula, who don't have such a strong affinity towards me for whatever reason, would want to walk away based on my behaviour and my demeanour. So there's going to be things that Danny Faulkner, with righteous indignation, can criticise me for. Now, if you level those things and I go, fair enough, when he's criticising me as my opponent, it is fair enough. Like, I get the same criticism from my own side, people who do like me, nay, love me, in the truest sense of the word. Now, when it's from the opponent, that doesn't necessarily make it wrong automatically. Now, you read between the lines and suggested things that generally get laid at our doorstep, Neil, and suggested that Danny Faulkner had said those things. And I'm like, give me an example. Thus far, you have not, and you could not. That doesn't mean he hasn't been critical of us, but it doesn't mean that what he's criticised isn't just. Know what I mean?
Yeah, he's a swine.
He's not. He speaks the word of Jesus.
He does not speak the word of Jesus.
Yes,
Nathan.
he does.
I
He's
don't know
got
where
a
you're getting that
congregation.
from.
I'm not going to hear this. Right. If you do this, right, I've got an uncle who has a similar attitude towards this stuff, right? I interviewed him day one of finding out Earth was flat. And he is comparable, right? He was a pastor. He was retired, or about
Is
to
he
retire.
going around writing books, Nathan? Is he going around writing books calling falling flat?
Maybe he would have done if he would have been 20 years
with
younger.
you.
Maybe. But my point is, I'm from a long family of very religious people, pastors and what do they call them when they go out? I'm going to say prophets. That's not the right word. Evangelists
They
that go out
call
on
it
the road.
evangelizing and missionaries.
Yeah. Missionaries. That's right. Yeah, my grandmother was a missionary. Well, the point being that obviously when you've come from that background and you've discussed this topic with them and you've got the same pushback that you see from someone like Danny, I can empathise. So for you to call him swine I hear it like you calling my uncle swine. Now, I'm not saying I relate to Danny like he's my bleeding uncle. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying there is a certain standard that I can't hear or bear you two put on another man unjustly when he is a man of the cloth, a man of God. He's talking about Jesus.
Not.
He's got a congregation. Man, he should.
He doesn't have a congregation.
He deserves
What's wrong with you?
You're calling him swine.
Listen, Nathan. He's perverting the word of God deliberately. Okay, that's number one. Number two, he works and he does work for what is it called? Answers in Genesis.
So?
Okay, do you know what they promote in Answers in Genesis? Go to the Ark Encounter.
I know who
and see.
Answers in Genesis
it's
are. First and foremost.
Hypocrisy.
Right, let's just deal with a few things.
Your
you're asking me
grandmother,
questions
my
and you're carrying
family
on
members
talking.
don't go around writing books calling for.
I heard you the first time. Yes, I know what Answers in Genesis is and what they represent. I said this at the beginning of the show before we went live. Everybody thinks they're the good guy, Neil. They think they're on the course of justice and righteousness and the American way and all that stuff, right? That's what they think. They don't think they're the bad guy. They think they do the right thing.
I just joined to say that Danny Faulkner is swine.
Say again. Have you got
Thank
a new
you,
mic
Brian.
yet? Did your mics come?
Yes, they did. Happy birthday, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much. Hurry up and sort it out. Get your mic in function. I can't hardly understand you. Say again.
I said, I just joined to say that Danny Faulkner is swine.
Still didn't get it. What did he say? Is what?
He called to say that Danny Faulkner is swine.
Oh, it's swine. I didn't catch the last letters. I don't agree. No, he's not. I just don't agree.
Well, he doesn't read directly from the Bible.
Yeah, I've heard Neil level that on Zoom today. Yes, I get that.
I think you need to take up that topic with Quantum Eraser.
Well, right. I think the guy isn't. I don't think he's an evil guy. I don't think he's swine. I don't think it's not worth our time. And I think there's a reason everybody has spent as much time as they have on Danny. Not me. So, you know, if anybody's got a justification to call him swine and say, I've given him no consideration because he's swine, that would be me. Because I haven't really. I mean, he's come in and he had a discussion with Refracted at one point, and I believe yourself. Oh, no, it was Adam. Regardless. It was Adam. But regardless, you know, I mean, beyond that, I'm pretty indifferent to the guy. But the people who get compassionate about him and want to discuss him and want to deal with what he puts out there, I don't know if I'd go as far as to call him swine when you're giving him the amount of attention that you're giving him. I don't think he's swine. I don't agree.
What I would call him is a fraud and a liar. That's what I would call him. I'd say he's a fraud and a liar, which he is, provably, and demonstrated. He has demonstrated this. He has spoken about passages in the Bible and people and audience incorrectly. He has shown dishonesty by blocking all the calculations at the bottom of the Black Swan photograph, and he has openly lied. So what else? Why would I consider this man a man of God? I can't. Now, I'm not perfect. I'm not claiming any man is. But there's a certain standard, and once you go below that, you are not a man of God. You cannot safely say he's a man of God. Not in my eyes, anyway.
I don't know if I agree. You are basically perfect, aren't you, Brian?
I'm far from it. But there's certain things I don't do, and I try to improve. Andy is not interested in improving. He's interested in deceiving. That's the problem. Kind of like I could call Will Duffy a man. I couldn't do that either.
Yeah, Will Duffy's an outright liar. So there are plenty of things or plenty of examples that I can give of Will Duffy lying. And he goes out of his way to justify his lies. Like, it's okay to lie. Plenty of people have exampled that as well. And, you know, that if you call him swine, then fine. But I don't know if being wrong and suggesting that because we've put the information to him or he's had it plenty of times, therefore that demonstrates malice in forethought when he presents his information that is deemed incorrect. It is. I'm not saying it isn't, but I don't know. It's a bit too much of a stretch for me to say that he's lying. I don't know if that's true.
Well, he's been demonstrated to have been lying. He's openly lied, shown to be dishonest. Now, dishonesty and lies are not the same thing. They're in the same ballpark, but I can lie or I can be dishonest. Without lying, I can just withhold information. Now, Danny Faulkner has demonstrated both. As he showed that photograph of the Black Swan photograph to his to an audience, and he left out all the important bits at the bottom. Why did he do that? He was withholding the truth. He was being dishonest. Then he is also openly lied. I can even just use what he says about the Bible. The passage where it talks about God stopping the sun from moving, he states that it's God stating that it's stopping the earth from turning. That's not what it says in the Bible. That is an absolute lie. That's only one of many lies he's told. So you need to talk to QE, because I think if QE is listening to this, he's choking on his breakfast. And not that I want to be, but I'm just saying this will drive him up the wall. QE has demonstrated him as being a liar. Well, QE didn't demonstrate it. He demonstrated it himself. QE just relayed it to the audience.
No, fair enough. When it comes to the alteration of the Bible verses, it's a push for me to say that he doesn't know that he's altering what is written down in black and white. So, I mean, certain things I can't really disagree with.
Paula has even detailed his book, Falling Flat, and gone through it. And I didn't hear all of Paula's critique on it, but I listened to the first chapter or two, and that was enough. Like, Paula shows where he is being dishonest, and he's knowingly being dishonest. Like, as I said, you don't have to lie to be dishonest. You just have to conceal to be dishonest, right? So you don't have to lie, right? But lying is you are being dishonest when you're lying. Same thing, right? In that way. But he's demonstrated both. I don't know what is to say. You know, I can't call him a man of God.
Yeah, you can't not call him a man of God because he's being deceitful. Everybody lies. Now, that doesn't change his status in terms of what he does. And I don't know, this is a tough one. I'm not trying to rub anybody up the wrong way.
For me, it doesn't. For me, it's not as triggering as some others, because I'm obviously not a Christian, and I don't have any. You know what I mean? I don't have like the relatives like you have, maybe, and stuff like that. So for me, it's not as maybe as the people talking. Well, it is, and it is. I'm going to say it is. It doesn't. Not saying that I'm okay about it. I'm just saying this. For someone like me, he would instantly make him angry. But I found myself that what Danny Faulkner has done and the way he would speak about the Bible and this character was actually being said, stuff like that. Like that makes me angry too. It's not even a Christian. It makes me angry because someone is lying about something that is like they know it. Like it just makes me angry if someone is lying. It makes me angry. And he lies at all. And considering how important the Bible is to so many people, you know, I just find it like egregious that he'd be willing to lie about what's actually written in that book. Because I'm not a Christian, and I certainly would never lie about what's written in the Bible.
You're kind of fading out at the end there, Brian. Can you just say the last thing again?
Sorry, I'm just saying that I'm not a Christian, and I would never lie about what's written in the Bible. And he's talking claims to be a Christian, yet he's willing to outright lie to an audience that he has. About what?
I think I got the general gist of it. Fair enough. I don't know why I want to be apologetic for Danny Faulkner. The last thing I want to do is annoy everybody.
Remember, you were trying to apologise. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, sorry, I thought you were finished when you said after you said, I don't know what I want to apologise to Danny Faulkner. Remember when you were trying to apologise for others in the past? Won't name names. You have to ask yourself, why
Yeah,
you
feel
do
free.
this?
Name names.
Do these people deserve the counsel?
Look, I'd rather you did say names. I'm not embarrassed at being wrong, right? I get it. For many, let's just go on camera. Right, for years, people in this arena have told me I was wrong, and to keep the phraseology the same, throwing pearls to swine with people like Jaron. And not only was I cautioned that if I continued to do it, people would eventually tar me with the same brush. So while people like Patricia are saying, oh, the people who've left the flat earth community are being called chills and scum, Yeah. Well, I was warned that by trying to communicate with those people that I describe as losing sleep over because they were frustrating me, well, those people could have tarnished my good name upon their departure, which was seen as inevitable by the people around me. I didn't see it. I was too short-sighted. I was quite literally throwing pearls to swine while I was dealing with people like Jaron. I'm not embarrassed to admit that. I mean, it is embarrassing now, after the fact, but that's just the way it is. You can only reflect on it and go, well, at least I don't have to stress about them anymore or lose sleep over them. I should have just listened to the people around me and trusted the people saying, don't throw your pearls to these swine. Eventually, people will think you're the swine too.
Well, yeah, me not bringing up the name wasn't me trying to somehow shield you from embarrassment. I'm not saying I was trying to embarrass you either. I was just pointing out to you that have a think back at those times and ask yourself why so many people push back against you when it comes to Danny Faulkner. It's maybe have a think about it before you defend who you defend. Are they worth defending? Have they proven themselves to be worth defending? If you understand what I mean. Like, how do you defend someone who's out who has been shown to be guilty by other people? So, and by themselves, well, they themselves have shown themselves to be guilty. You may not be aware of it, but it's worth checking out before you decide to publicly defend them, because you will end up being tarred with that brush, unfortunately, and you don't deserve it.
Is it just me, or is this like deja vu, Neil? You could have been saying the same thing 12 months ago about Jaron, quite literally, correct? Literally the same words.
I said the same thing about Jaron and Bob and then many years ago. I was the first person to say it.
I mean, you said it at least 2 weeks before everybody else, I would have said.
Well, I don't know who else said it, but I know no one said it before I said it to you, because I remember saying it to you on the show, on one of the live shows a couple of years ago, and I remember you taking a pause.
What did you say? What did you say? Tell me out.
I said that if Nathan continued defending people like Jaron and Bob and them, what would happen is that he'd end up being tarred with the same brush as them when they're shown to be what they really truly are, which they were.
Brian, I remember, correct. Yes, I remember you saying that.
Yeah, credit where credit's due. I mean, that level of perception is beyond my skill. You know, certain people have that, I don't know what you call it, some people call it gut instinct, whatever you want to call it. I didn't have it. I wasted a lot of time and energy on these shills. And now that's why I can so easily say it, because it seems so bleeding obvious. All the people that frustrated me and took up my time and energy were the people now coming out going, oh, well, it's a ball after all. Oh, well, there's the methyl equidistant map's been debunked. Well, it's all over. No.
Let me tell you why, Nathan. Good. Let me tell you why Brian was able to see that. And I was able to see that. When other people care about someone, they can see things happening before the people doing them see it happening. Right? You weren't seeing it happening because you were focused on one thing. Let me get these guys on the same page so they don't look stupid. But you weren't seeing the damage it was going to do to you. We did because we care.
Yeah, Nathan, I'm not trying to attack you here, and especially on your birthday, and that wasn't the intention here at all. I'm just saying that what I would go along with what Neil was saying. It's just that the saying. Sometimes your intent, you see, was to get them on the right track, but you were looking past who they were while you were trying to do that. Sometimes there's no getting someone on the right track because their intent is to only be on the wrong track, and that's what their purpose.
And not seeing the damage it could do to yourself. That's the key thing.
Yeah, I understood your good intentions with them. I know that was a good thing, which you were trying to do under a different circumstance.
What, under a circumstance where they weren't primed to come out and say, actually, it's a ball after all?
Yeah, that's the only thing, you see. But see, then again, look, you have to understand, they were very influential as far as the numbers go and the media and all that. They were influential. So I understood why you were trying to do what you were trying to do. And you didn't want to be hearing conspiracy. And I get that, because conspiracy becomes a pain in the neck because often it's not correct or not even researched correctly, or, these kind of things. But like sometimes you you must listen to it because there's something there.
Listen to what specifically?
Listen to other people's conspiracy.
Oh, you mean listen to you specifically?
Well, it doesn't have to be me. I'm not saying me specifically, but if someone has a good track record on that type of thing, maybe they're worth listening to. Doesn't have to be me. There's Neil, there's Adam, there's others. But like when it comes to Danny Faulkner, he's not worth defending because he will let you down. You know, he will be shown to be guilty. I guarantee you at all times. He'll always be shown to be guilty. Kiwi was shown to be guilty last night. Yeah. I don't know if you watched last night's Kiwi.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was there for a couple of minutes at a time to say hello in the chat and give him permission to start and stuff, but no.
No, you'd enjoy it. You would enjoy it actually last night's show. No, but even last night, like Kiwi, I know he was condemning Danny Faulkner. Not that I've ever spoken really to the guy. I don't know if we even ever shared 2 words, but I know who I'm dealing with when I'm dealing with him. He's a very smooth talking, very polite back pisser.
I was about to say back
That's
pisser.
what he is. You know, they're the best at it, aren't they? They're like a politician, you know what I mean? You know, very charming, very polite, very mannerly, you know what I mean? Cordial, jovial, and a complete liar. You know what I mean? They're the best ones, aren't they? The best liars are always those ones.
Right. Shout out to Vitaly Z for the super chat. He says, "Happy birthday, Nathan." Oh, thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate the support.
Would you
Brian,
agree,
yes.
Nathan, that... Sorry, did you just say yes when I said, would you agree? You just say...
I was agreeing with you because I'd started out the super chat and failed to actually acknowledge what you'd said. So, yes, I agree. So they're always going to be the ones that... To be a good back pisser, you've got to be able to gain empathy from your opponent. And maybe this is there's a little chink in my armour where, oh, no, he's a good guy, isn't he? No.
Well, if you met him in real life, you immediately would see through him because you're not seeing him as the persona. You are seeing him in real life. You'd be seeing him in real life for what he truly is. So you're not like you. He wouldn't get one over you in that situation. But in this situation, because you're trying to see the best in him, and sometimes there's only bad to see with somebody, you know, or the only thing worth seeing is the bad stuff. Sometimes. Put it this way, think about the ballers and the flat earthers. Who have better manners throughout the whole, let's just say 10 years? Who, let's say, by what's said in not what they're not saying, but the audio that comes out. In general, the ballers have much better manners. Now, I'm not talking about at the start of 2015 and 16 when they were telling you to drink bleach and all the rest of it. I'm talking about after that. Their manners in general were better, right? But they were also much bigger liars. You know what I mean? Because they're trained politicians. Like, you know what I mean? Like conspiracy cats. Really cordial fella, but he'll totally lie. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's like, the ballers in general are much more polite. But that's only so they can get away with lying to you.
So my sentiment from the pre-show was that there's a good reason why people have spent so much time focusing on people like Danny, and that's because he's like metaphorically worth saving. Like in there somewhere there's a good man. Fundamentally, you've just shot all that down at the end of this live show. So well done, Brian. That's great contradictory information I'm putting out in this show here. Wonderful.
I think the guy, personally, I think the guy is probably a Freemason or something. But that's total conspiracy. I don't know. But it doesn't matter whether he is or isn't. What matters is that what he says and what he does and what he is. And he has shown himself to be totally dishonest. QE's got bad manners, right? Well, according to internet standards, right? Not in reality. In reality, he's very good manners. But people would see him as rough and shouty and he uses a lot of swear words, but he's not a lawyer. Do you know what I mean? So I'm quite happy with those who don't lie to me. They can say all the swear words they want in the world. They can shout and scream. I don't care what they do. Right? He doesn't lie. He tells the truth. He doesn't BS people. That's all. That's one of the main things about him that's so important.
He does say the F
Danny
word quite a lot.
Faulkner, yeah, he does all kinds of stuff. Yeah, he swears like a sailor. But Danny Faulkner doesn't. He sits there and he's very calm and cordial and he's direct.
And lies to your face.
Exactly.
Hey, Brian,
lovely
what was...
But hold on,
can
he does
roughly...
smile while he's pissing down your back, doesn't he? He does smile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Brian, can you briefly break down what they were talking about? Because I missed the whole beginning of yesterday's show. What was he actually presenting to these numpties in freaking Misfit Toys?
Earth Awakenings, Geo and all them. What that was about is, you know, this celestial theodolite thing, Nathan. You made a video about it, where, and I made a video around the same time as the guy was making the video. But the guy is not. Everyone's focusing on what kind of refraction is there and all this other nonsense,
Sorry,
right?
what video?
How much terrestrial?
He said I made a
You know
video.
that video where you know that video that Doctor somebody made, some flat earther who he took a measurement to the top of the mountain, and there was a star that was in a line with the mountain via
Is that
the
what ended
angle
up being used when Dan responded to me? So that the video I'm addressing is that video where they're measuring a mountain at 50k. Is that what you're talking about?
No, yeah, well, no, the mountain that's being measured is like 50 something miles now, not the 50k. That's Dan. The 50k is a different. Dan just said 50k, right? But it's about 50 or 60 miles away. This mountain. Anyway, the point is that they were covering that Earth Awakening. Danny Faulkner was in talking to everyone in Earth Awakening server, Geo server, and everyone was going around in circles talking about how much terrestrial non-refraction there is, and all this other complete and utter horse manure. Instead of focus, and a couple of times there was a couple of the flat earthers started kind of talking about the measurements and parallel verticals and stuff, but they were too busy trying to enable the likes of Faulkner, and they didn't have confidence in what they were saying. And so it basically, he nailed it. He said these people don't actually know what's flat. It's that simple. And he was right. I totally agree now that they don't. They only suspect it. And instead of focusing on the measurements that the guy took with the theodolite of the mountain, right, and how they're what the earth needs to be for that measurement to happen, right, which is flat, right. Instead of focusing on what's important, they were all arguing about or talking about how much terrestrial non-refraction there is, and how much celestial non-refraction there is, all this other stuff that is a complete red herring away from the most important. And they were calling that what they were talking about, the number one flat earth proof at the moment. It's just like, it is such a nothing. The part that's proving anything there is the measurement, the geometric measurement of the mountain and how that must be measured. Nothing else is of any use there. The rest is nonsense about some refraction that doesn't exist. And that was what the whole show was about. Now, there's more to go because QE didn't go through the whole lot of it, I don't think. But it was basically on that for the whole show. So it's worth listening to. QE starts getting this. And I'm laughing along, but QE starts getting angry at one point because it's like,
Were you
these
there,
people,
Neil?
they just...
Were you on
Sorry?
the show yesterday, Neil?
I-
I'm just asking Neil if he was there.
Yeah, I caught the end of it. I came in around almost 2 hours in. But yeah, I the only thing I noticed was he is speaking a lot, and we couldn't freaking get 5 words out of him without 30, 40, 50-second intervals. And then when Adam had him, he had to go to lunch. But he's so comfortable sitting in Earth Awakenings, just laying out his rhetoric, and they're allowing him to do it, and not one of them brought him to the measurements. So that's why he's able to sit there so nice and comfortable, not being challenged at all.
Yeah, he can sit in the Earth Awakenings for several hours, but he can't spend 20 minutes talking they are. Do you know what I
Brian,
mean?
what I wanted to ask you was if he would have brought that stuff on FED or even QE Live, what would the results have been?
Well, I'd say he wouldn't have even gotten to talking about his terrestrial number fraction. It would have been straight onto the measurements, how it has to be measured, what has to be. There has to be parallel verticals, because verticals can't be anything but parallel to each other, and horizontal distance between them. That means, and that has to be parallel to the mean sea level, which is also horizontal. Like, there'll just be no way out of it.
Right. Like
It's a
I
right
think
angle
you even
triangle.
said,
Yeah.
sorry, but I think you even said it one time in the show, Nathan would be losing his mind right now.
Yeah, I said if Nate's listening to this, he's screaming at the computer. That's what I said at one point, Nathan. Because you are like so focused on the one thing, and that's the measurements. And this is one of those times when that is exactly what should be focused upon, and the only thing they should be focused upon. And they're focusing upon every other bit of nonsense but the measurement. You kind of have to ask: are these people that inept, or are they literally trying to go against it? You know.
Well, you asked the question, do they even know? I mean, I haven't watched it, so I mean, I will go back and watch QE show. But do they know? Do they, while they're talking about it, that's why I asked Neil, are they talking about sea level and things of that nature and just whistling straight past it, the flat earther studies? Because when I tuned in, it had Saint Pierre guy and QE losing his, his rag with him because he seemingly didn't know the arguments that we're currently putting forward. So my question to Neil is that the case, that they're whistling past the flat earth prerequisites and such like? Neil?
I'm sorry.
I've already got my
I
answer, actually, Neil, because Brian surprisingly is offering me compliments in terms of how I do things and saying, actually, in this instance, that would have been perfectly appropriate, which is very different to the last couple of days. Maybe it's just because it's my birthday. But Brian's being quite complimentary. But that affirms it, right? They're just whistling straight past this stuff. They want to use the flat earth measurements. But my question is more nuanced. Do the flat earthers know that? The flat earthers that were in this video that you were critiquing? Because like I say,
I don't think so. No, I don't think it's either that or they don't want to do it because it's a quick end to the argument. It's either they know it, that they're stepping back from it, or they don't know because some of the diagrams, you saw the freaking triangle right there. They said sea level. I mean, come on, what's going on here? Am I in Gaga land or something?
No, that's what I'm asking for. That's what you've answered my question, Neil. Thank you.
And Nathan, no, it's not that I was trying to tell you the other day that you're wrong about everything. That's not or anything like that. That's not my point. Is there's a time for, like, if you want to talk about it that way, there is a time to focus on that, and there's a lot of times, but sometimes you need a little bit more detail as well, or to know a bit more detail, or if it comes up. You don't have to go on about it, but if it comes up, it's nice to have that detail there to shut down some BS attack on you. Do you know what I mean? So you're not blindsided by it. It's good to have that, right? That doesn't mean you have to talk about it all the time, but it's good to have that there, like to know these things, and so that way they can't be used against you, basically. But last night would have been like if there's anyone I would want to have right there in the middle of that conversation to end all that rubbish would have been you. I would have dropped you straight in the middle of it, like a hand grenade. Because you're just going to focus purely on what needs to be focused on. Now, so would I, and so would QE and everyone, but because you are, and of course, refracted in that, any of us would have been a hand grenade in there. But because you focus so much on it and you're so focused on it, that you would have been like, if you listen to that, you'll know exactly what I mean.
Yeah, and I know what you're talking about. There's been instances recently when, a guy came on and was grilling me about the pitch data, and I didn't know what the axis was on the bottom. And because it wasn't in front of me, I had to kind of wing it. And you're like, well, you're saying if you had had the nuanced information in your head, regardless of having the pitch data in front of you, you wouldn't have needed to know that it's time on the bottom axis. But you didn't, and it wasn't in front of you, but you're there arguing about it. So I understand your position, so hence I'm thinking about how I can relate it back to you, rather than not giving you an example back and then having you give me the same example over and over again with me going, I get it, Brian, you don't need to give it me 10 times. But in this case, I'm saying, right, okay, well, here's an example of when that's happened, and it would have been useful for me to have a more expansive knowledge of the particular debate that's going on literally as we speak. rather than going, I don't need this debate. You know, we've already passed this. We know Earth's flat. You're saying, well, that doesn't stop the opponents coming in with arguments that might just catch you out once in a while. So you still got to keep yourself frosty. And it's only through love. It's because Brian loves me so dearly that he's concerned so deeply about me making myself look as good as possible. Isn't that right, Brian?
That's right, Nathan.
We all love
No,
you,
he's like
Nathan, especially on your birthday.
Of course.
Yeah. Well, you don't want the situation to happen where you're blindsided by somebody coming at you with something like that Mercury switches thing. That was something that they were trying to make into something that wasn't. And if
Well, that
you
caught me
have the
out too.
information about it,
Well, that's a better example.
Sorry?
That caught me out because I hadn't got a clue what was being talked about. Now, I'd heard you vaguely describe it in response once when you talked about it, because it's just because the word erection caught my ear. And in terms of erecting the gyro, which is what it's doing mechanically on the ground, I'd got a vague idea of it. But for it to be that vague meant that I didn't catch Dave McKeegan talking about it. But the principle that he's discussing registered in my mind immediately as the principle that's used for pendulous vanes. Much to your irritation, right? When I listen back to that show, I'm like, and now I understand why Brian's annoyed with me. Because I'm not getting that he's not talking about frickin' pendulous vanes, right? They've done the old switcheroo and talked about something that's similar but not the same to catch us out. And you're like, that's not what he's talking about. Now, obviously, everything that he is talking about still needs a flat earth, just as it would be. But I haven't caught that nuance, which is annoying to you, right, Brian?
well, it wasn't if it's in the moment, because we can all be caught in the moment where we just don't know. The only thing that was with me was when you were saying it doesn't matter, I don't care about it, I don't need to learn it, and that was when I was focusing on you. I was like, no, you should learn this because it's a good thing to know for when someone comes at you with that. Because if they think they blindsided you with something once, and they can hear that you're not interested in learning about it, they're going to come back at you again with that thing publicly, especially as much as possible, especially if they can get you with a big audience who doesn't know anything about the subject in front, if you're promoting the book or something. That's when they're going to do this. So it's good to have that knowledge. Like at that particular time, you didn't know. So, I mean, you can't know what you can't know. But you don't know, you can't know what you don't know, and that's it. But when you start saying, I don't care, I don't want to know, it's like that was when I was focused on. It's like, no, you should care about this. So that can't happen to you. Because we can all get blindsided, and that's all right, very well. But after that, you learn to make sure that doesn't happen to you with that same thing again. That was my point, really. And the thing about it, they were mixing, they were chopping and changing between the Mercury switches and pendulous vanes. They were throwing in different terms. It's like they were trying to talk as if they were the same thing, but they're not, because they are doing the same function, but in two different gyro systems. You know what I mean? So they are doing the same function, but in two different gyro systems. And this one, because this system with the electrically spun gyro, because of this system having a more of a relayed response or delayed response, because the pendulous vane is just corrected immediately, whereas this system will correct it when there seems to be when there seems to be an issue that just hasn't been corrected after a couple of minutes. And they're then saying, well, in the pitch data that's ignored, but the pendulous vane is corrected immediately because of the way it works. So that means like they weren't even being clear about that point. You know what I mean? And of course, as you said, know yourself. What's it correcting? Both of these are correcting back to horizontal. Why are they correcting it back to horizontal? Because the Earth is flat. Simple as. But they're basically trying to come at you with an argument. And okay, at the time you didn't know, and that'd be fine. We don't all know everything. But it was only when you didn't want to know, that was the thing that bothered me. It's like, no, you should want to know this. That's why that happened.
Yeah, fair enough. No, and I totally appreciate that. Now it's my being indifferent to it. It's like, well, if you're indifferent to it, and then you get into discussion, and you're out and you're probably in the book, for example, and then somebody asks you about aviation, you start talking about Earth being measured flat and how that gets achieved, and then suddenly the special guest that we hypothetically describe being there out of the blue starts talking about this subject, and I respond with a response like I gave to Dave McKeegan, not catching it, and they go, "Well, we're not talking about pendulous veins." Suddenly, I get to be made to look stupid because I don't know what the subject's about, and I've never heard of it, and I've got to admit to that on the spot. They then pick up the reins and start waffling on about how it corrects to sphere. And what am I going to do? I've just admitted I haven't got a clue what I'm talking about. How am I going to respond? That's your concern. And I agree. Perfectly legitimate concern. And that's only exaggerated when I'm saying I don't need to know this. I already know how it's measured, therefore I don't need to concern myself with their bullshit that they come back with. Yes, I do. Their bullshit will also prove a flat Earth. So it still works on the same vein of you're going to find out how Earth's being measured flat at the end of this process, just like all the rest of them. But the second you drop the ball and stop being frosty, someone's going to take advantage of that. Right, Brian?
But yeah, see, what was going to happen is based off of what. Just 1 second, Eli. I'll be finished then. Based on what you were saying to me, you said you didn't want to know. What was going to happen is, in my mind, what was the potential for a situation where you present the pitch data to an ignorant audience. They come in with this nonsense and give the audience the impression that you don't understand the pitch data. When that's just saying right, and because the audience don't know what they're talking about, if you can't then take apart what they're trying to come in as some kind of a rebuttal to it, if you can't do that there and then, there's no the audience then lose faith in you and in your understanding of the situation, and they just go, it's definitely a globe. Do you know what I mean? That's what they want to be able to do. They want to be able to get you on the detail, and a lot of time they're using the detail. They don't have the details right, or they're using the details incorrectly, and that's what I was saying for to defend against, which you wouldn't have been if you didn't care about learning about it.
No, I've got you.
Sorry,
so I say Earth's measured flat. Here's the measurements of Earth flat. Next man comes along and goes, but what about this particular mechanically corrected gyroscope? And I go, what about it? Pendulous veins don't prove anything, blah, blah, blah. I get told, no, we're not talking about pendulous veins. The guy gets the floor to talk about how ball-shaped it's being corrected to, and I don't know that the correction's to horizontal. Therefore, he gets the perceived win because I'm condemned as being ignorant in the subject matter. So the fact that I've presented flat Earth measurements, the be-all and end-all, becomes irrelevant in the mind's eye of the ignorant audience. I get it.
Exactly.
Yeah, he got around to it. That was basically my point. If you're talking to like just the person, then it matters. You don't have to give a crap. But if the audience is ignorant, you need to do better.
Then what?
All right, we got it. Save this for the back chats.
Say what? Am I missing something? Clearly not. Right, is there anything else anybody wants to add to this birthday special? We'll round out the live show if not.
Just happy birthday. And I hope
thank
it's
you.
a happy one. And it goes good for you. And it's going to be a good year for you. And I have to drop for a while, but I'll be back in a bit later.
Perfect. Any more for any more? Nope.
Yeah. Happy birthday, Nathan.
Thank you. I will round out on that note, though. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and all that good stuff. Obviously, a massive thank you to all of you. Smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed. Thank you very much again. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching an after show, and I'll see you all in the next video.
So if we have anything, let's do it in the back chats.
Do what in the back? That's what I was trying to establish at the end of the live show. I just didn't want to labour the point. Do what in the back chat? What are you talking about?
Well, now you're running the show. I'm not going to tell you now. Now the after show's going on. I'll tell you later.
Okay. Whatever.
Let's just say QE gave a command.
Was it written on stone tablets and stuff?
No, but it makes sense. So we kind of like get it.
What was the command? Abandon ship. Nathan's being apathetic to Danny Faulkner.
Back off on criticizing Nathan during a live show, okay?
Don't know what you're talking about.
After that whole thing with Brian the other day, he basically came in and just said, listen, just lay off. Got something? Take it in the back chat. Don't do it publicly.
I like that I'm held to a high standard on live streams. I don't think Brian should ever stand on ceremony. If he's got an issue, not an issue, but if he expects better of me, I would expect him to tell me. I don't care. I hope. It's the same way QE will correct me on something in the back chat, and I'll just say it there and then live to my own detriment. And he'll be like, you don't have to do that. You don't have to be self-deprecating on your own live stream just because I've corrected you on something. Just take it under your wing and, just don't do it again. I'm like, why? If I've got it wrong, then there's a reasonable chance that someone watching me has heard me say it wrong and will get it wrong, and therefore it needs addressing immediately. And if Brian is correct, then there's an impression that I might give off to my audience that they don't need to stay frosty anymore. Well, it's measured flat. You don't need to worry about your opponent's stupid positions that they'll put to you. Well, that's not true. You do have to remain frosty. They might convince the crowd around you, which makes you look stupid. If you've taken what I've said as read, which you don't need to concern yourselves with these arguments, is the attitude I'm putting out there. Brian's right to stop me in my tracks live. Right, that's egregious to Brian. And rightly so. Wouldn't you agree? I'm agreeing with him, and it's me it's to my detriment, right?
I think it's got something to do with the book coming out and things like that. And just because maybe a couple of days before was Adam and it's Brian, I don't know. I'm reading between the lines. But he basically said, just save it for the back chat. So you have to take it up with QE why he would say something like that.
No, not at all. There's a certain amount of, what's the word? In the case of Adam, right, he's put a shit ton of work into my book. So therefore he's going to be defensive of the work he's done on my book. And it's me, my name, and my standards that are being held to the polish he's put into the chapters that he's worked on. So he now wants to hold me to a higher standard because he's polished my book to that higher standard. Well, that's perfectly reasonable, right? He doesn't want me to fail to do justice to the extra layer polish that's been put on the book. He wants me to be able to do it justice. Why wouldn't he? He's put a lot of work in.
Brian actually said that too. He said, well, we keep private. Nathan always talks about it on the show anyway.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I'll talk about it anyway. I'm quite open about this stuff. I'm very grateful to people like Adam, to the fact that I've got to contend with them being a little bit aggressive towards me after they put their time, their work, their effort into my book. It's like, okay, of course, you're entitled to do that. You've given me your time, your effort, your work to make my book a better product. Well, thank you very much. What's that? You now expect more from me as a result of it? Totally understandable. Like razzing around in a car, treating it badly, burning the tyres up and burning the clutch out. And then your mate goes, it's your car, right? Yeah, so we're clear. It's not the mechanic's car, but the mechanic says, I'm going to work on this car and get it so that it's not a shitbox anymore for you and make it really nice and polish it, make it clean, right? When you come and collect the car from the mechanic that's charged you nothing to polish your car and clean it and make it work nicer mechanically, when that mechanic says, can you treat your car a bit nicer? I've seen you doing donuts in it before I worked on it. Yeah? That's the metaphorical equivalent. Adam's going, can you treat your book with the respect that it deserves? Now I've put some polish on it, please. That's what he's saying, isn't he? He's put the graft into my car. Now he wants me to treat the car a bit better. Well, if that's treat the arguments that have been polished up in the book, where, for example, a Wikipedia example's been replaced with a really shit citation from Sagan. Now that's took work from the people around me to turn a crappy citation into a really, really good one that makes much, much better effective use of the argument that's in that chapter. Okay? Now, when you read the book, you'll know what I'm talking about, but that citation didn't come from me. Now, I watched the process of it needing improvement and getting improvement. This is what I'm calling polish. Now, at the point that that's been done, the person who's done it, I don't actually know, I think that was actually refracted curvature, is perfectly entitled to say, now you will actually learn verbatim what Sagan actually says, right? I've gone out and found this so that your book is reaching a higher standard. This citation is better than the crap that you'd put in there. So you are going to learn it, right? And what am I going to say? Nah. Thanks for getting it, though. Now you can sod off. Obviously, I've got to say, yes, I'll do justice to the extra work that you've put into these citations. I'll learn them so I know them like the back of my hand when I'm citing them. Obviously, thank you so much. That's the least I can do, right?
No, see, here's my stand on it. I have total faith that when that time comes, you will be fine. You will be ready. You have not disappointed us yet. I have faith in your abilities. So when you are before a Rogan, if you are, you'll be fine because you know beyond the shadow of a doubt that Earth is flat. You're not a believer. You have a knowledge, and that knowledge cannot be held back.
I share the same confidence. I too think I am ace, Neil. But thank you.
I mean, when it comes to measurements, I mean, there's no debating it. You can't debate a measurement. It's either correct or it's not.
Well, you can, but you just have to debate the source of the measurement. Not me. Me, I won't care.
Yeah, measurements don't lie.
Yeah, they're not calculations. These are measurements, and they all do it. They've been doing it from the beginning.
Yeah, but can you understand my sentiment about that being the reason why it'll be very easy for the general public to go, we always knew it was flat? Like from the, it's stupid, what a silly idea, flat earth, to, we got to stop these flat earthers, to, yeah, we always knew. The only way that's going to be achieved is through them recognising the flat earth that's always being measured and always was being measured flat and will always be measured flat should you go forward and decide you want to measure it 1,000 times.
Absolutely.
Yep. Well, that's what it all comes down to, isn't it? The measurements. And we have spent years previously talking about other things like, which is all related to the heliocentric nonsense, gravity, gas pressure containment, and a lot of other refraction nonsense. And when it comes down to it, it just comes down to the measurement. And if you stick to the measurement, let's look how it's measured. Oh, it's measured flat. See you later.
Yeah, but that's how you're indifferent general public that just accepts what they're told. When you're told Earth's measured flat and you recognise it for the simplistic fact that Earth is flat based on the fact that we measure it that way, people will be able to go, oh, I always knew it was flat. Yeah, I knew how we measured it. I knew that surveyors surveyed it flat and we're flying in flight level and all that stuff. I knew that sea level was level. I knew that that's how Earth was dealt with. The public can say that and reference stuff that's not changed since they've admitted it and changed their stance with regards to heliocentrism and a surface that's curving. They can easily reposition their views without seeming silly, like they've changed their attitude. They can say, no, I always knew it because it was always that way. Therefore, they can skirt the embarrassment and the stuff that the anti-flat earthers are just stuck with. You know, they've painted themselves into a nice little corner, haven't they?
I mean, I know you say we can go on the front foot forward and explain elevation angles, celestial navigation. What I've been doing last few days with people is once I've told them the Earth's measured flat and they don't agree with that and tell me it's not, I just ask them to demonstrate how it's not measured flat, and that seems to get them in a little bit of a snookered position because they can't come back and demonstrate how it's not measured flat. They can't do it.
It's because it's always measured flat. I mean, why would we expect to do anything other than measure it flat over those local distances? Straight line trick's perfectly acceptable. End quote, Simon Dan. Yeah, I'm glad that we've expanded our community to people like Dan and Dave. Yeah, we'll put our arm around them and thank them for measuring an Earth that's flat. It does make sense why they utterly despise me at the moment, eh? That they want to go out and say, look, we've shut down your channel, with this flat Earth measurement of the sun for 24 hours. Or Earth that's flat and flat Earthers are over. We've gone out and measured a flat Earth 1,000 times. No one wants to hear that. No Glober.
No, they want to hear how curvature is measured. That's what they'd like to hear. How do we actually measure Earth curve? Well, it's measured flat, mate. Sorry. There's no two ways about it. Even if you try and explain to me how it's measured, curvature, you'll be explaining a flat Earth measurement. No doubt. I'll put money on it.
Yep. But yeah, that'll be it from now on. We'll be moving forward in a community that understands implicitly Earth is measured flat. Therefore, there's not necessarily any need to engage in the argument. Now, we, as the perceived gurus of the subject matter, will need to stay frosty, learn the arguments, etc. Because we'll still be challenged. The namesake of the show will still be Flat Earth Debate. As long as there are people perceiving the world to be a sphere based on the religion, we'll still have a need to dispel those myths. But in terms of my general attitude towards the subject, it's changed drastically quite recently. It's like, this was never a debate. The whole point of us being here for the last 10 years was to create the illusion of debate. Now, as we're moving out of that, we still have to stay frosty. There's still people who are trying to pretend that there's an argument, and we still need to know how to undo that by understanding the nuance of each and every discussion that comes up, because they're not arguments, they're discussions that end in realizations about how Earth's measured flat. That's all they really are. Now, there might be aspects of those discussions that I don't know about yet that I need to know, so I'm not made to look perceivably stupid. So I get that. That's my role, personally. But for everyone else around me in my community, I still stand by my general sentiment, which is it never was a debate. So as time progresses, that will be the sentiment we move into. Yeah, I've got to acknowledge Brian and his correct assertions about understanding each and every point that comes forth. But it doesn't change where we're going. And where we're going is towards complete apathy towards our former opponents. They were never our opponents. And their measurements of flat Earth that they're making currently proves that. Me joking about them being brothers with us isn't really a joke. It's a fact. They're measuring Earth flat too.
Yep. And if they want to talk about nonsense, well, all the other aspects within the heliocentric nonsense, like gravity, you can get into that and talk about it, but just make it clear from the offset that I'll talk about gravity with you, or the nonsensical gravity, which you think's something, but I just want you to comprehend and understand that that's got actually nothing to do with how Earth's measured. Do you agree? Because it's not. It's nothing to do with a measurement of Earth. But if you want to talk about something called gravity,
I don't know about that.
That's not strictly true. So when you measure in Antarctica, for example, your horizontal plane of reference to level your tool so you can measure things perpendicular to said plane of reference in a downward orientation, you are indeed requiring a horizontal plane of reference to have an orientation perpendicular to it. Ergo, you are indeed requiring a flat Earth to make the assertion of down to convince people of a 110-year out-of-date force of down in Newtonian terms. Or to put it another way, you will need a flat Earth for Newtonian gravity and its downward force. In spite of it being superseded, it still needs a flat Earth. You're perpendicular to it.
Yeah, but their whole thing is, it's being pulled to the centre of a core, a globe Earth core, which is
on the contrary.
We need a measurement.
No, that's not what down is. Yeah, when you describe the down vector in gravity, that's not in, is it? They're not describing an in force. It's a down force. It's perpendicular to a plane of reference, whether they understand it or not.
Yeah.
Will
Correct.
always
Same
lead a
thing with
flat Earth.
orbits.
That's incorrect.
This is from a year and a half ago, one day. No offence to you, but all roads always lead to a flat Earth. Gravity's no exception.
Newtonian does, but not Einsteinian.
I did say Newtonian.
Yeah, I know that. I know exactly what you're saying, but what I
The
was,
difference-
mate. Sorry, mate. Go on.
The difference with things like that is they're not implicitly linked to the Earth. When we get into navigation, because unfortunately, in the mind of the baller and the newbie, the tangent's reasonable. So if you just say you can't obtain, they can in their own mind. The difference, and this is why celestial navigation was powerful for me, is that once you've taken all those measurements, however you want to define them in your own head, for you to get about, you have to place them all on an even baseline for celestial navigation to have any purpose functional work. That's when it becomes devastating, because the baller can always imagine a tangent, but you can't have tangents stuck together creating a parallel plane. Yeah, they don't have that, but they're the principles. So to expand it is the convincer to me, not just to focus on, because until you relate it to the surface, which a tangent isn't, but you still obtain a measurement, yeah, in theory, then they've got wiggle room in their own mind. The cognitive dissonance can't be illuminated in their own mind. But once you put it all together, then they're scuppered, because then the cognitive does recognize that you cannot hold these two positions together. That's when they are beaten for me. Oh, and happy birthday, pal.
Thank you very much.
So that's when you use the Darth Vader quote and say, "You are beaten."
But when they are, it's like when we did the pitch data, me, Brian, and QE. And there was a reason I called it a flawless victory, because every angle was covered, everything demonstrated in multiple ways. Boring and tedious as it was, but it was flawless. So I've not heard a thing about it, and all they want to do is attack gyroscopes.
Yeah, pitch data is an exceptional piece of evidence. There's no doubt in my mind how good a piece of quality information it will be. It will remain that way for hundreds and hundreds of years. As you put it, flawless victory.
There is
Did you
no wiggle
say-
room. Yeah. The only wiggle they've done is what they've embarrassed themselves with, what they're bringing to the table now, which is this claim gyroscopes don't work how gyroscopes purported to work. That's
Yeah,
what
they
they're
need Bob
trying
for
with
that,
us.
though.
It's
That's the
hilarious.
best bit of this. Sorry to cut you off. Yes. But how do they cite that? Suddenly it all makes sense, right? All of the shills that came out of the woodwork and were alleged to be assisting a controlled opposition narrative. Bob now fits into that perfectly. Because what do they need to cite to suggest gyros don't work the way they work? Bob. That's who they're citing.
So wait, these same gyros that they have to correct the horizontal? That's what we're talking about?
Yeah, so to offer seeming mitigation for how gyros do work, they have to suggest they don't work the way they work. So they have to say that rather than the useful aspect of a gyro, that's it spinning rigid in space, fixed, not drifting, they have to suggest that when cage is pushed to its extremes and therefore it can't remain rigid in spinning in free space because the mechanics are forcing it out of free space due to a limitation of the mechanics, then they have to correct. Well, they need to convolute that into a correction that's already taking place because of the x-axis correction alleged at 15 degrees an hour in a broken gyro that Bob's been using. Ultimately meaning that they're using Bob Nodell to suggest that gyros don't work correctly, that they're not useful, that they're having to be corrected to offer the principal useful aspect that they offer inherently. So to deny the inherent properties of gyros, they've got to cite Bob.
If they don't work for the job, why would they use them?
Well, they do. We've got pitch data to show that. That's the point. We've got the measurements. We don't need them to offer apologetics for how they don't work. They do work. We've got the measurements. That's the point.
Yeah, they do work. We know.
Yes, they do. But Bob's didn't. Bob's faulty gyro. Oh, right. Was that in a plane? Oh, it wasn't. Is that how Bob got hold of it?
Got it from Toys R Us.
It makes no difference. The principle that's being used from gyros is establishing horizontal planes of reference by way of a mechanical aspect of gyroscopic motion rather than the bleeding horizon. And what do they use? Oh, well, they call it an artificial horizon, don't they? So what's that used for? Establishing horizontal. What do you use that for? Well, you might want to keep your chord line of your wings above it when in straight and level flight above the surface level. Like in the measurements, using the gyroscopic motion to demonstrate that on the graphs that are used to investigate life and death crashes. Yeah. So we've checked. It's flat. That's how it's measured. No apologies needed from dickhead ballers. The NTSB aren't offering any response to the suggestion that they don't use raw data. They do. Nobody sane would suggest they don't.
I mean, it is good, like you say, that you've got the pitch data. It's a life and death situation. We've got the celestial navigation. That's a life and death situation. Finding your plotting your position on the surface of Earth. What we're talking about is actual things which is to do with saving lives, and keeping people safe. Fantastic.
Yes. Flying straight and level over a flat Earth. 2 thumbs up. Life is good. Careering towards the flat surface measured with altimeters, with the pitch no longer above the horizontal, flying straight and level, imminent death. So it's pretty cut and dry. Heading towards the flat Earth, you're going to die. Remaining parallel with the flat Earth, you're not. So that's what they study because that's what they measure. Earth's flat.
You might like this one, Nathan. Certain person said to me the other day, you know why they put that straight line on a ball in a liquid when you're in an aeroplane? It's because Earth's a globe.
Straight line on a liquid? What does that mean?
On a ball. In an aeroplane, you have the altimeter, whatever they call it, which is a ball in a liquid with a line around it, yeah? To give you a horizontal. He said the reason they put it on a ball in liquid is because the Earth's a globe.
It's not. It's created with the gyroscopic motion, but that's kind of how it appears to him, like one of those old compasses that you got in a Pajero or whatever, a Mitsubishi. I don't think the actual instrument's liquid filled. I think that's just how it's perceived by him. But yes, he's saying because of the perception of the circular nature of the altimeter or artificial horizon, in this instance, that's why, because Earth's a ball, that's why it looks spherical. Okay.
Yep.
No, it's used to measure with respect to the straight and level flight above surface level. With respect to the horizontal plane.
Yeah. I did point it out to him, but you know.
But yes, it's comical. Right, I'm going to round out this show and go and get some snoozes as it's my birthday. So with that, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing. Hit me up on PayPal and wish me happy birthday and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video.